In Naruto, I start with a Seireitei. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction. So please don't attempt real magic, the results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 51. I'm playing myself? Because they were invited to participate in the Chunin exams, they were essentially setting up a stage for Konoha. At least that's how the original Kusagakure village saw it, and that's still how Konoha sees it now. Therefore, they had long ago allocated a territory for these visiting ninja teams, responsible for their unified hospitality and rest. When Kusagakure arrived, all the other villages' teams had already arrived. They were among the last to arrive. Those who hadn't arrived by then were basically not participating. For example, Kumagakure and Iwagakure had never bothered to flatter Konoha. They disdained participating in such a petty joint exam. The real battlefield was their stage to confront Konoha. Hirigakure had long since severed ties with the four inland countries, and besides, the graduation exam in the village of the Bloody Mist was far more bloody and brutal than the joint exam among the five great nations. Only Tsunagakure of the Land of Wind truly deserved the joint prefix in the Chunin exams, consistently sending teams to participate. They were burning with pent-up frustration. Unable to win on the battlefield, they could only try to regain faith and confidence in the Chunin exams. The other teams were just small ninja villages filing in the numbers. Of course, that might only be the opinion of their village leaders. The Junin actually participating in the exams probably didn't see themselves as just there to make up the numbers. At least, when Kaguya Nami glanced around, the expressions on those extras' faces were all quite fierce. This instantly highlighted her gentle, kind, androgynous, bright, and flawless features, making her look like an innocent little lamb who had mistakenly wandered into a pack of vicious jackals and ravenous wolves. Those grotesque, grimacing faces were all unique. It was truly remarkable how they all looked. Kaguya Nami's kind and compassionate eyes instantly stirred their sensitive hearts. A Junin with a face full of acne and a fiery temper roared, leaping into the air, his 5 fingertips flicking out sharp blades as he aimed at Kaguya Nami's face. "Who are you looking at with that pitying gaze? Ninjas don't rely on their looks, you bastard." The acne-faced man's eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. His favorite thing to do was to scrape those seemingly beautiful but ultimately worthless faces. Like delicate flowers, the more vibrant they were, the easier they were to tear apart. His fingertips hooked the curved blade, which was still covered in dead skin and blood, emitting a pungent stench. Kaguya Nami frowned slightly, watching the claws about to pierce her skin. The parasitic beasts holding umbrellas on either side did not move. They had received the command stand still in their minds beforehand. Swish! The filthy claw snapped off with a snap, the severed finger falling to the ground. A joker card spun eerily in midair, blocking Kaguya Nami's face and preventing a single drop of blood from splashing out. Kaguya Nami is my most prized apple. Before I pluck her, I won't allow such filthy claws to soil her face. Hisoka gracefully stepped forward, his index finger flicking lightly into the air. The spinning card, as if pulled by an invisible rubber band, sprang back and was caught between his 2 fingers. "You went too far, Hisoka. You know very well he can't hurt me. You didn't need to cut off her fingers." Kaguya Nami frowned and sighed. He knelt down and picked up the spoiled severed fingers from the ground, completely unconcerned that the filthy blood had stained his clean hands. "I'm sorry, my teammate was worried about me getting hurt, so he went a little too far. Take these fingers to a medical ninja right now, they should be able to be reattached." The pimple-faced man's expression was stiff, his mouth twitching as if he didn't know what to say. His wide eyes darted between his severed hand and the bloodied fingers. "Grass Village, we'll remember this. We'll settle this during the Chunin exams." The pimple-faced man's team leader, a Jonin, jumped down from the 2nd floor. Since Junin were generally energetic, they mostly stayed in the courtyard on the 1st floor, while the Jonin leaders were on the 2nd or 3rd floors, standing in 2s and 3s looking down. This Jonin leader had also been watching, but he hadn't expected that in the blink of an eye, one of his Jonin's fingers would be severed. The guy playing cards named Hisoka was too fast and ruthless. Even as the Jonin leader, he could feel a chilling, morbidly dangerous aura emanating from him. The Jonin leading the group snatched the severed finger from Kaguya Nami's hand, uttered a harsh remark, and walked away with his pimple-faced man. Mayuri Kuratsuchi and Gin Ichimaru watched silently the entire time. When the Jonin looked over, they both remembered their current roles and instinctively returned a respectable smile. Two more Jonin quickly followed, and interestingly, as they passed Kaguya Nami, they didn't dare look at Hisoka, but instead glared at the innocent Kaguya Nami with resentful eyes. Interesting. You did nothing wrong, you were even full of kindness and pity for them, yet they harbor resentment towards you, while I was the villain who severed his hand, yet his companions didn't dare show me even a hint of hatred. Look, the ugly hyena only dares to extend its claws towards the harmless sheep, but doesn't even dare to look the real wolf in the eye. So, Kaguya, you're too kind. This deformed world doesn't deserve your kindness at all. Hisoka took a silk handkerchief from Oni no Kami and gently wiped the bloodstains off the Joker, then casually tossed the bloodstained white handkerchief on the ground. You're right. I shouldn't have looked at him with pity. My gaze unintentionally hurt him, it was my fault. He was just feeling inferior and jealous. These are normal human emotions. He just didn't handle them properly, but it doesn't warrant having his fingers cut off, especially for a ninja. A pair of fingers that can skillfully form hand seals is far more valuable than a pretty face. Kaguya Nami looked at Hisoka sincerely and said, next time this happens, please don't intervene for me again. Hisoka licked his lips, excitedly saying, what a pure and innocent soul. Before I pluck you, you must protect yourself, or I'll be very angry. Hisoka gracefully greeted the nominal leader and left the courtyard. He seemed eager to see if there were any unripe fruits in Konoha. Oni no Kami silently followed behind, holding an umbrella for Hisoka. Akaji Mori nodded expressionlessly, his mind actually a little dazed. Hisoka is the guild master. Kaguya Nami is also the student council president. Both bodies are actually controlled by the president. So, from beginning to end, it's been the president acting against herself. What is she doing? And why don't the two squad leaders find it strange at all? On the contrary, they seem to be watching with great interest. Number 1, do you know what this means? Akaji Mori asked Number 1 in her mind. Number 1 remained silent for a long time, then coldly said, play your own role well, and you'll understand the rest in time. Chapter 52 Me, a good guy or a bad guy? The farce ended. Thanks to the acne-faced person's cooperation and unpaid performance, Kaguya Nami and Hisoka completed their entrance ceremony, initially establishing two completely opposite character settings and making an impression on everyone's minds. Hisoka, cold-blooded and morbid, powerful and dangerous, like an elegant venomous snake hunting its prey, 90 points. Kaguya Nami, beautiful face, foolishly kind, a harmless sheep, 10 points. This clearly shows that the ninja's aesthetic preferences and values have been distorted, severely warped and chaotic. Kaguya Nami, having silently collected a wave of sheep cards, still wore a gentle and kind smile. She met the gazes of those around her, faces embodying ugliness filled with indifference, disdain, disgust, mockery, and other unfriendly malicious emotions. Kaguya Nami looked away, her expression seemingly confused and lost, which only made those gazes more disgusted and irritating. It's all because my face is too perfect. Kaguya Nami silently complained in her heart. She could forgive these ugly bastards' uncontrollable jealousy, but she was helpless against their lack of intelligence. Ninjas certainly don't rely on their looks, but isn't it a basic law that the prettier the person, the stronger they are in combat? You have achieved the achievement. I play myself. Playing two roles in one play is the biggest challenge to acting skills, and you are doing just that now, playing both the hero and the villain in a dual role. The time to truly test your acting skills has arrived. P.S. I am a bad guy, and I am a good guy, so am I even a human being? Gained achievement point 650. As expected of Konoha's main stage, I've already earned 2 new achievements as soon as I entered. This land might be overgrown with leeks. Hisoka has already gone to the orchard to find his unripe little apples. I also need to hurry up and go harvest a batch of leeks. These extras probably won't be giving me any more freebies, right? Kaguya Nami's mind raced with various thoughts. He figured they probably wouldn't be giving him any more, so he said goodbye to Akaji Mori and headed outside. Hanafuji Sadara followed behind, holding an umbrella. Up until now, he was just an emotionless umbrella bearer. Kaguya Nami wasn't in a rush to draw prizes this time. Although he had accumulated 1,887 achievement points from the 2 rounds of achievements plus his previous savings, enough for a shopping spree, there are still 3 days until the first Chunin exam. No rush this time. I can try harvesting some points and save them all for a big draw the day before the exam. I wonder how many I can save up in the end. Just thinking about it makes me excited. The clone Kaguya Nami and the main character, Hisoka, communicated remotely in real time about their plan, dividing the Konoha map into several sections and assigning each other their areas of responsibility. While there's no explicit instruction manual or formula for the achievement mechanism that triggers the cheat, Kaguya Nami has gained a vague understanding of its underlying workings through repeated triggers. First, it's certain that ordinary people rarely trigger achievements. All the events and achievements she's experienced so far are largely unrelated to ordinary people. Second, it can be inferred that the triggering of events and achievements is most likely confined to the ninja world, or at least related to it. Finally, the pattern she's observed is that the closer one is to the main stage, and the more relevant the characters or plot points are to the original work, the more likely they are to trigger achievements or events. This is largely validated by the fact that she encountered Orochimaru, a major player in the cheat system, and the cheat system specifically highlighted the overlapping timelines of the Uchiha clan massacre, and that she immediately achieved 2 consecutive achievements upon entering the main stage. It's actually quite easy to understand. It's like a game. Areas outside the 5 great ninja villages are like running through wilderness areas and fighting monsters. Smaller ninja villages are like running dungeons, and only the 5 great ninja villages are the main cities with many permanent NPCs waiting for you to trigger quests. Konoha is the most special of these main cities because it's also the background of an expansion pack for the game. Following this logic, it's simple. Every location appearing in the story needs to be visited, check-in, and every character with dialogue in the story is potentially a walking exploit. If Orochimaru is a major exploiter, then Kaguya, Nami, and Hisoka have now entered a field of exploitation, their hearts already pounding. On their way, Hisoka had unknowingly wandered to the vicinity of the Uchiha's residence in the back mountains. He'd never been to Konoha before, and he didn't have a map or navigation, so of course he hadn't deliberately come here. What's so interesting about coming to a gathering place for a bunch of jealous, mentally ill people? Hisoka was simply following some unseen destiny. He would never admit that his familiarity with the peculiar smell permeating the area surrounding the mentally ill was due to his 3-year cohabitation with his crazy relatives from the Shikatsu Myaku clan. Buildings with the same obsessive-compulsive style, clan crests painted and shiny everywhere, everyone wearing the same style of hospital gowns, their voices and eyes filled with barely suppressed repression and restlessness. It's like living in a volcano ready to erupt at any moment. There's a sense of nostalgia and familiarity about it. It's a pity my original clan members are all dead, except for Kimimaro, who's still being cared for by Orochimaru. Hisoka didn't go inside. He just stood at the street entrance and peered in. The territory of such large clans was usually very closed off. Even if the gate wasn't locked, they wouldn't allow strangers to wander in. As a newcomer from another village, Hisoka understood this basic rule. Besides, the midday sun was at its most intense, not a good time to visit someone's home. Furthermore, ever since Hisoka entered Konoha, a little tail had been following him. It never came up to greet him, just lurking around like a mouse, not posing any real threat, but still making him feel uneasy. Such close surveillance, it must be Danzo Shimura's route. Hisoka greedily inhaled the familiar air for a while, then pulled a playing card from his sleeve, a 4 of diamonds, not a very lucky number. He glanced discreetly behind him, silently sentencing the other party to death in his mind, then stretched, circled the street corner, and headed further into the woods. Duo. In a clearing in the woods, a circular target was embedded in a tree. A slender figure in a short-sleeved fan-shaped shirt spun and landed on the ground. 2 kunai fired from their hands simultaneously, striking the target. Ace of spades. A playing card fell from Hisoka's sleeve, a cryptic smile spreading across his face. My luck seems to be starting to improve, Happy May Day holiday everyone. Although I'll be visiting relatives and friends, attending a bunch of social events, and even going to Koyuman's grave to burn paper money, it'll be a lot of chores. I'm making a promise here, I definitely won't miss an update during the holiday, maintaining my record of 2 updates a day. So, I hope that during your holiday breaks, you'll remember to vote for me, read my posts, and give me a reward. Those of you who know me understand, For a lazy person like me to keep updating during holidays is truly a huge effort, a real sacrifice. Mwah. Chapter 53. I'd like an invitation, is that alright? His face was still youthful and innocent, his eyes clear and bright black, untouched by the stain of blood. Even his sweat-drenched hair seemed to exude a sweet scent. Beneath the tree with a bullseye, lay a small black satchel, next to which were a quiver of arrows, a short bow, and a bundle of ninja tools. Kaguya Nami, the main character, looked at the small, diligent figure, and an excited smile involuntarily curved her lips. She couldn't explain whether it was because she had sculpted Hisoka's face, causing her to unconsciously cosplay Hisoka's inner thoughts, or whether she truly possessed the soul of a magician. It didn't matter. She didn't mind playing Hisoka, she was immersed in the role. If I were to pluck this fruit now, would the original storyline of the ninja world be completely ruined? How much of an achievement would that reward me with? Hidden behind a tree, Hisoka revealed half a tear-streaked face, a spade ace spinning wildly on his fingertip, a faint, sinister killing intent emanating from him, like a spotted venomous snake hanging upside down from a tree, elegantly flicking its tongue at its prey passing by. The umbrella-wielding figure behind him sensed the killing intent emanating from his master, his cold, black and white eyes instantly locked onto the little boy's back, while his other hand, hanging naturally, strangely disintegrated into crimson fleshy sickles. Unaware of being secretly watched, the little boy finished practicing his ninja tool throwing, walked to the tree, bent down, and picked up the short bow from the ground. Although he no longer needed to practice short bow archery, this bow was made for him by his beloved older brother, so he still maintained the habit of shooting arrows every day. Suddenly, he stopped bending down to pick up the bow, as if a terrifying monster was staring at him from behind. He had never felt this way before and didn't know what it meant, but his body instinctively sensed the bone-chilling malice, as if his life had accidentally touched an invisible line of death. Every muscle in his body tense up, stiff and unable to move. A keen instinct, it seems a waste to just pick it like this. A fruit tastes best when it's ripe, giving me the greatest nourishment. Now is far from the right time. Hisoka pressed Oniso's hand back to its original form, his killing intent returning to a deathly still state. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw an Anbu member carrying a katana and wearing a mask suddenly appear on the treetop with a target pinned to it, a pair of eerie, scarlet eyes coldly staring at him. He had missed the best opportunity. Besides, how could he so easily harvest such a valuable leek? You have achieved the achievement, Sasuke's childhood shadow. Sasuke's childhood shadow. One midday, under the bright sunlight, Sasuke glanced back and saw a strange face standing under a black umbrella. For the first time in his life, he smelled the scent of death. You became a small shadow in his childhood. P.S. So, how much radiation area do you plan to let this small shadow grow and spread above his head each year? Achievement points 1000. Of course, the harvest of leeks must be sustainable. Uchiha Sasuke's body relaxed, and he felt dizzy and fell forward. As his head spun, he caught a glimpse of a tearful, smiling face standing under a black umbrella, reflected on his retina. Are you alright, Sasuke? The Anbu landed instantly, gently supporting Sasuke's head and straightening his body. Then, with one hand, he removed his mask, revealing a gentle and concerned face. I don't know what happened just now, my body stiffened and I couldn't move, but I'm fine now, Sasuke said defiantly. The flower bud, nurtured in the greenhouse, hadn't yet fully grasped the true danger and terror its body's instinctive warning signified. But Uchiha Itachi's face immediately darkened. He formed a hand seal, and almost simultaneously, a figure appeared beneath a distant tree, a shuriken spinning rapidly between his fingers, poised to sever Hisoka's neck. Shadow clone technique plus body flicker technique plus shuriken manipulation technique. In a single second, 3 ninjutsu were superimposed, their speed terrifying. Almost as soon as Hisoka glimpsed the hand seals, they were already finished. The 3 seemingly basic ninjutsu transformed into fierce, decisive fangs, already biting down before him. Just a glance at your brother, no need to get so angry. Hisoka's lips curled into a smirk, his fingertips lightly brushing the card he'd just drawn. It turned out the playing card he'd drawn was actually 2 cards, beneath the ace of spades was a red joker. Ha, double. Hisoka flicked his finger, and 2 playing cards flew out of his hand instantly. One card blocked the shuriken, sparking as metal clashed and scraped against metal. Then, it spun in a strange arc, wrapping around the inside of the shuriken, instantly stopping it an inch from his neck. The other card drew a large circle in midair, piercing the shadow clone's head from behind. It didn't stop there, changing angle, as if controlled by invisible threads, and shot towards Itachi's real body. The shadow clone silently shattered into a flock of crows, their sharp cries enveloping Hisoka. One of the crow's eyes gleamed with a sinister crimson light. "Hey, I can't let my guard down for even a second." Hisoka blinked, suddenly feeling the world plunge into deathly darkness. His head felt dizzy, and through his blurred vision, he saw Itachi's figure emerge from the darkness, a short sword aimed at his chest. The Uchiha's Genjutsu lives up to its reputation. I fell for it without even realizing it. Doesn't look like Tsukuyomi? If it is Tsukuyomi, will I get an achievement? Hisoka thought regretfully, then blinked again, and countless white bone flowers suddenly bloomed from his chest, densely packed and ferociously stabbing towards the darkness in all directions. The short swords in Itachi Uchiha that were thrusting towards him were instantly torn to pieces, like pale white paint splattering onto a black curtain, scattering terrifyingly in all directions, shattering the surrounding blackness into fragments. Black, white, intertwined, silently breaking into dust, revealing their original colors. The terrifying pale white wove together thorns that tore everything apart, and a hideous, enormous white bone hell suddenly bloomed, crushing and collapsing the ground, tearing the trees it touched into pieces. The spot where Itachi and Sasuke had been standing was swallowed up by the spreading, ghastly white light. Targets, short bows, and arrowheads lay silently shattered on the ground. Itachi was forced to discontinue his Genjutsu, pulling the pale-faced Sasuke away from the engulfing zone of the bone hell. Shikatsu Myaku. Itachi stared gravely at the figure in the distance, surrounded by countless bones. Numerous cracks opened on the figure's body, from which bone fragments surged forth, engulfing everything around them like a dead sea. The Kaguya clan was renowned for producing madmen, and even the Uchiha clan paled in comparison. An ordinary person might mistake this for Shikatsu Myaku, but Itachi's eyes could see more. He sensed that these bones were different from ordinary Shikatsu Myaku. They contained a deeper, more dangerous, and more concealed power. What truly horrified Itachi was that behind the skeletal figures, the man holding the black umbrella, whom he had ignored, hadn't retreated or dodged a deadly bone attack. Instead, he remained motionless, like a statue, maintaining his umbrella-holding posture. He allowed the bone fragments to pierce his flesh at close range, leaving horrifying holes, without wavering an inch. It was as if holding an umbrella for the person in front of him was more important to him than his own life. This was beyond madness. How dangerous and terrifying must someone be to make a madman disregard his own life just to hold an umbrella for him? This glimpse of Hisoka instantly raised Itachi's suspicions about him. This man might have shown a hint of murderous intent towards Sasuke earlier, the reason unknown for now. But Itachi felt not only anger, but also intense fear and apprehension. He glanced at his younger brother, whose face was deathly pale with terror, and his heart sank. Itachi Uchiha didn't dare to continue. Given the destructive power his opponent had displayed, if they truly started fighting recklessly, he would have no way to protect Sasuke. As these thoughts raced through his mind, his eyes remained fixed on what lay ahead, watching as swathes of thorny bones rapidly contracted into flower buds, retreating back through the cracks in the body. The whole process looked like a flower blooming in reverse, as if the bone flower had never bloomed, leaving only a trail of wrecked wood, proving that it wasn't an illusion. Sorry, my first time being hit by a Genjutsu, my reaction was a bit too extreme. Hisoka stretched, glancing at Oniyumi, whose chest, abdomen, and shoulder were riddled with holes. Fortunately, his head hadn't suffered a fatal injury. I'm sorry, I couldn't protect the umbrella. Oniyumi lowered his head in shame. Several holes were pierced in the black umbrella above, letting in a few playful rays of sunlight, causing Hisoka to frown slightly. It's alright, I just hate sunlight, it's not like I can't stand it. Hisoka pulled a bottle of flesh-repairing agent from his pocket and tossed it to the parasite. Out of caution, Hisoka carried some of the life-saving gadgets Mayuri Kuratsuchi had created. Oni no Kami respectfully took the syringe, injected it into his chest, and the hole on his body quickly healed. This scene made Itachi Uchiha's eyelids twitch again, and only then did he notice that the headbands casually wrapped around Oni no Kami and Hisoka's shoulders were the symbol of Kusagakure. Why were the Shikatsu Myaku, corpse bone pulse, in Kusagakure? A question surfaced in Itachi's mind, but now was not the time to delve into it, because Hisoka flung off the tattered umbrella from his head and was walking towards him with elegant yet dangerous steps. A spade ace and a joker, like acrobats, bounced back and forth in parabolic trajectories between his left and right hands. Sasuke's throat was dry. Even with his brother behind him, he couldn't feel a shred of security. The air around him was thick with an eerie, pervasive chill, like a sticky, suffocating glue slowly engulfing him. "Stop!" Itachi Uchiha shouted coldly, reaching for the short sword on his back. He couldn't let Hisoka get any closer. 10 meters apart, Hisoka stopped, looking at the Uchiha brothers who seemed to overlap, and said softly, "What a gentle older brother you are, but why do I see hidden pain and confusion deep in your eyes? It's confusion that you've protected your younger brother too much? After all, compared to you, who went to the battlefield early and experienced the cruelty of death, he's just a flower in a greenhouse. A flower that hasn't been bathed in blood and watered is as fragile as paper, easily shattered with a gentle poke. And what pains you even more is that you fear the one who will shatter all this fragility is yourself, the one who originally protected this beauty." Hisoka grinned, revealing a suppressed excitement, and gently exhaled a pink bubble, which popped with a pop. A dreamlike beauty torn apart, this classic tragedy will never be out of style. Uchiha Itachi remained expressionless. Even though his heart was in turmoil, his face remained impassive. No one could read his thoughts through his expression. "Don't stare at me like I'm dead, it's terrifying." Despite saying it was terrifying, Hisoka's smile widened. "I meant no harm to your brother. It was just an instinctive reaction to seeing unripe fruit. I was a little tempted, but it's far from ripe enough to pick. I only like to pick ripe fruit." Itachi Uchiha didn't reply, his grip on his short sword tightening even more. He didn't know the man's background, nor was he sure what the other knew. The only thing he was certain of was that the man was dangerous, extremely dangerous. "You can trust me. I'm a very patient person. At least until the fruit is fully ripe, you can rest assured I won't steal any." Hisoka, completely unconcerned about Itachi's attitude, continued explaining, "I'm only saying this to get an invitation from you. When that tragedy unfolds, I hope to get a VIP ticket in exchange." Hisoka tucked the ace of spades into his sleeve, flicked his finger, and another red joker shot straight towards Itachi. Just an inch from Itachi's brow, it suddenly stopped and fell straight down. "When you come to me with a joker, I can promise to do something for you for free." A palm opened, catching the joker in its place. Then it settled. Hisoka gracefully and gentlemanly backed away, the sunlight piercing through the clouds illuminating the cratered forest floor. "I am Hisoka, you can also call me the magician." Only after Hisoka and Kisame's figures completely disappeared from sight did Itachi slowly loosen his grip on the short sword. "Sasuke, are you alright?" Itachi looked at Sasuke, who was hiding behind him, with concern. Sasuke swallowed and nodded, then asked, "What was he saying just now? Tear apart, tragedy, what does that mean?" He couldn't understand a word Hisoka was saying, but he had a vague unease about him. "I don't know, don't worry about the ramblings of a madman." Itachi crouched down, gently touching Sasuke's brow with his slightly bent index and middle fingers, his voice infinitely gentle, "No matter what happens, don't be afraid, I will always protect you." "Yes." Sasuke nodded heavily. At his age, he couldn't understand the deep sorrow behind his brother's gentle eyes, nor could he see Itachi Uchiha's other hand quietly putting away the joker card behind his back. "Happy holiday, everyone. Those traveling, please be safe. Those staying home, have fun. It's the first. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll hug you all tightly from my grave." Chapter 54, The Leak Field, is just outrageous. You've achieved the achievement, seeking. In just one day, you confessed your love to 3 people and even gave one of them a token of love. Your fish pond is about to get lively. P.S. Fish pond list updated simultaneously. Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke, Kaguya Nami, gained 1000 achievement points. You've achieved the achievement, that mysterious man, you've successfully piqued Uchiha Itachi's interest. The name of the magician Hisoka has officially entered his heart. Although he hasn't explicitly accepted your confession, you've already become the mysterious man hidden in his heart. P.S. Magician, gained 1000 achievement points, a beautiful encounter. The Uchiha brothers generously gifted Hisoka 3000 achievement points. For a moment, Hisoka almost didn't want to leave and wanted to go back and reconnect with him. However, the sun overhead was too scorching, so Hisoka found a patch of lush green shade to lie down under, gazing at the clear blue sky through the trees, chewing gum and blowing bubbles. He inhaled the earthy fragrance in the air, feeling the tranquility of nature. This was the villain's daily life, so pleasant and enriching. It just feels like something's missing? Kisao, what do you think? Hisoka lay flat on the grass, flicking his finger, and a four of diamonds appeared out of thin air, which he casually tossed into the air. Master almost forgot, there's a little mouse following behind. Kisao gently pinched the spinning card, his figure suddenly disappearing from the spot. Steam rose from the hot spring next door, even through a curtain. The mist in the air seemed to be imbued with the passion of the young ladies. The hot spring street was also Konoha's famous red light district, a favorite spot for a certain best-selling author to gather inspiration. How did I end up here without even realizing it? Kaguya Nami blushed slightly as she looked at the young woman in a yukata, waving enthusiastically at her from the doorway. She turned and left without a second thought. Ghost body, plus, demon body, not necessarily heartless, but certainly devoid of humanity. What woman could be more beautiful than Muzan Kibutsuji at night? You have achieved the achievement. Check-in at the hot spring town. Check-in at the hot spring town. You have completed one check-in at a famous Konoha scenic spot. Your soul has been elevated, and you have gained a clearer understanding of yourself. Achievement points 500. If it weren't for achievement points, who in their right mind would come to a place like this? After bidding farewell to the reluctant young woman in the yukata, Kaguya Nami turned and walked into the bookstore next door. A man with silver hair, half a headband covering his eyes, and wearing countless layers of masks on his face, leaned against the bookshelf, holding a study guide and diligently studying and appreciating it page by page. The third edition of Makeout Paradise was currently the best-selling study guide. In broad daylight, under the clear blue sky, someone was shamelessly taking study materials for free. It could only be Konoha's copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake. Kaguya Nami glanced at the Ichi Paradise bookshelf half full, pulled out 2 copies, paid the shop owner, keeping one for herself and handing the other to Kakashi. Shop owner, you don't make much money selling books, so don't take them for free. I'll give you this one to take home and read at your leisure. Kakashi sleepily lifted his eyelids, glancing at the headband tied to Kaguya Nami's shoulder, deducing that she was probably here for the Chunin exams. Her gentle, bright, sunny smile made him slightly dazed, as if he were seeing that man bathed in golden sunlight again. A strange irritation rose in Kakashi's heart. He closed the book and put it back on the shelf, refusing to take the study materials from Kaguya Nami's hand. No need, I have a signed copy of this book at home. Kakashi walked out of the bookstore with his hands in his pockets, glancing slightly suspiciously at Hanafuji Satara standing at the entrance with an umbrella. The chilling coldness in Satara's eyes made Kakashi's heart skip a beat. Dead, cold, emotionless eyes, an umbrella? Is he the sidekick of that sunny guy in the bookstore? A strange combination. Kakashi didn't think too much about it, just made a mental note that if he had some free time during the Chunin exams in a few days, he might go check it out. You have achieved the achievement, Kakashi's curiosity, even though he doesn't even know your name, a seed of curiosity has already been planted in his heart. P.S. Most ill-fated relationships in this world begin with curiosity. Achievement points 500, how arrogant. Kaguya Nami chuckled. It's not much, but it's alright. Being a righteous person means you can't excessively pursue risk and excitement. A steady, gradual approach is best. You've achieved the achievement. Reading makes me happy. Reading makes me happy. There are beauties in books. You've surely grasped this sentiment. Gain 500 achievement points. Since both the main character and the clone completed the achievements independently, there was number 1.3x reward bonus. Kaguya Nami didn't find anything wrong with it. The only thing that slightly surprised her was that the artist collection exhibition event hadn't been refreshed. This meant that Jiraiya had lost to Orochimaru. Ichi Paradise Orochimaru's remains, in terms of artistic value. After leaving the bookstore, Kaguya Nami quickly went to the barbecue restaurant, the Dengo shop, Ichiraku Ramen, and other places that frequently appeared in the original story, checking them off one by one. Along the way, she also encountered the tuberculosis-stricken Heiei Gecko, the nightclub girl dressed Enko in a fishnet top and stockings, the melancholic Kasuma Saratobi with a cigarette in his mouth, and Might Guy running in the sunlight wearing a watermelon rind. Naturally, there were no deep interactions, they were all just fleeting encounters, leaving only a brief impression. However, thanks to his exquisite good looks, this face easily lingered a little longer in their memories. Naturally, Kaguya Nami would need to maintain this impression and deepen their memories. Unfortunately, not everyone gave achievement points, some were stingy, or perhaps the activation method was wrong, so they simply wouldn't give them any. In short, after a day of wondering, as the afterglow of the sunset was obscured by the Hokage rock and night fell, Kaguya Nami walked to a small playground and saw a small figure, his face filthy and covered in mud and stones, sitting on a swing, swinging back and forth alone. He'd already amassed a total of 4,000 achievement points. What can you do? The daily life of a righteous person is just that simple, boring, and tedious. Add to that a paycheck from the villain Hisoka, and his total achievement points had unknowingly slipped back down to near 10,000, reaching 8,887. Absolutely outrageous. A metaphor for being exploited. And at that moment, the pitiful and disheveled little figure that entered Kaguya Nami's sight was none other than the most valuable leak in this field of Naruto Uzumaki. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Outsiders and Smiling Faces. All around was a vast emptiness, and the silence of death. The darkness before the eyes of those who died without love was reduced to a moldy, withered swing, swaying back and forth. That was Naruto Uzumaki's childhood, deep within his memories. It was as if he were sitting or lying in a vast emptiness, letting the silence of death erode his soul, surrounded by the ever-howling, malevolent winds that called him a monster. But what terrified him even more, what he had nowhere to hide from, were those pairs of venomous, cold eyes, forever devoid of warmth, like the poisonous flames of hell surrounding him, fiercely burning away his battered body. In his memory, only that swing accompanied him, in that hidden corner abandoned by the world, until a ray of light tore through the night. "Are you crying?" The voice, low and soft, unexpectedly entered Naruto's ears, interrupting the trembling of his shoulders. He turned around blankly, seeing a gentle yet unfamiliar smiling face behind him. No one had ever spoken to him in such a low voice before. No one had ever shown him such a beautiful and warm smile before. "No, I'm not crying." Naruto wiped away his tears, then forced a smile and said, "You're mistaken, I just got some mud in my eye." "Well, you're really weak, kid." Kaguya Nami hated having her mask exposed, so she wouldn't easily expose someone else's protective shell. Strength was this kid's only, last shred of self-respect. Naruto smiled awkwardly, his beard looking somewhat ugly, but Kaguya Nami knew that unlike the fake smile on her mask, this smile was the purest and clearest color in the world, possessing a truly infectious power. "Your smile is beautiful," Kaguya Nami sincerely praised. Naruto's eyes lit up, then he masked his shyness with an even bigger smile. He jumped off the swing and pushed the moldy wooden swing towards him. "Want to swing? Kid, I'm way past the age of swinging, but I'd love to just sit for a bit." Kaguya Nami sat on the rotten log. For Naruto, this was probably the most precious thing he ever possessed. Kaguya Nami wasn't stingy, she took out one of her study materials and gave it to Naruto as a return gift. Naruto's eyes widened, feeling as if a ray of light had shone into his bleak life. He clutched the study material tightly in his hands. This was Naruto's first truly meaningful gift, unlike the will of fire always given by the third Hokage, Hiruzen Seireitei. It wasn't as obscure or profound, it was even rather frivolous and vulgar. But who knew which one carried more weight? You have achieved the achievement, early education, the ultimate ninja technique, sexy jutsu, will be born ahead of schedule. You have helped Naruto Uzumaki open a window to a new world, adding other colors to his gloomy childhood, gained achievement points 1,000, it's worthless, you can have it. Kaguya Nami said indifferently. By the way, they bullied you like that, don't you hate them? Naruto Uzumaki was stunned, scratching his head helplessly. This question would be obvious to anyone else, but for him, it seemed like a very difficult one. I don't know. Naruto Uzumaki didn't seem to understand the meaning of hate. In this deformed, twisted, dark, cruel, and painful world, there was someone who didn't understand hate. He was truly an anomaly. Kaguya Nami grinned, like digging out a pearl from rotten black mud. He wouldn't think of dyeing the pearl black, assimilating the world into one color. What fun would that be? He didn't need to bend Naruto or guide him towards darkness, such a script didn't suit his aesthetic sensibilities, Too monotonous and contrived. He always had a more suitable candidate for someone to turn evil. Light should shine brighter than the sun, then, according to its own will, burn itself out recklessly. Only then can it reflect a brilliant classic. I'm looking forward to seeing if you can still use light to illuminate a path through the darkness this time. Kaguya Nami thought to herself, then stood up, ruffled Naruto's messy hair, and said softly, "One day, you'll know. I'm looking forward to it. Will you give me a different answer then?" Naruto let Kaguya Nami rub his hair. The cold hand made him feel an unprecedented warmth, spreading from his scalp throughout his body. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and yours?" "I'm Kaguya Nami. Nice to meet you, Naruto-kun. Would you like to be my friend? Aren't we already?" In the distance, ANBU members monitoring the situation arrived. Jinchuriki are always under close surveillance in the village, especially when they interact with outsiders. If the Hokage hadn't given orders not to interfere with Naruto's life, the ANBU monitoring from afar would have immediately intervened the moment Kaguya Nami made contact with a Jinchuriki. Allowing a Jinchuriki to interact with an outsider, even under cover of darkness, was already a limit of their patience, especially since one of the ANBU members monitoring was Kakashi Hatake. And Kaguya Nami had shown only goodwill towards Naruto throughout, without mentioning anything inappropriate. "Someone's coming, I should go." Kaguya Nami's lips curled into a slight smile as she turned to leave. Outside the small playground, Hanafuji Sadara, who had already folded his umbrella and slung it on his back, raised his hand to block the ANBU members, his cold, black and white eyes devoid of joy or sorrow. The question from earlier, "If it were you, Nami, what would you have done?" Naruto Uzumaki was somewhat reluctant, but sensibly didn't linger, only asking the question from before. "Me? I'd probably do what Naruto did, leave them with a smile." Kaguya Nami turned around, her face beaming with a gentle, delicate smile, revealing her clean, white teeth. Kaguya Nami spoke from the heart. He walked towards the ANBU, and Hanafuji Sadara consciously stepped aside, standing behind Kaguya Nami. "I'm sorry, is it forbidden to have contact with Naruto-kun?" Kaguya Nami's face showed a perfectly timed apologetic expression. "It was my oversight. I just saw a kid crying, so I couldn't help but go over and comfort him. Please don't worry, I meant no harm." "Oh, you seem to be the one from the bookstore this afternoon." Kaguya Nami apologized while giving one of the silver-haired ANBU members a suspicious look, then suddenly recognized him. "Never mind, it's alright. Just don't have any more private contact." Kakashi interrupted Kaguya Nami, leading several ANBU members back into the shadows. "Okay." Kaguya Nami politely promised the heir. Chapter 56 First Kill. You have achieved the achievement, a ray of light in the darkness, a ray of light in the darkness. Your appearance was like a ray of light, bringing a touch of warmth to the cold depths of Naruto Uzumaki's memories. The smile you showed that day was the warmth that would support Naruto Uzumaki in the darkest of times. P.S. Damn, even the savior has certified me as a good person, so who dares to say I'm not? Gained 1000 achievement points. You have achieved the achievement, light and darkness in memories, light and darkness in memories. You play the role of light in Naruto Uzumaki's memories, and you also play the role of shadow in Sasuke Uchiha's childhood. The old photos of memories will one day be reopened. How will the story of light and darkness be written then? P.S. When light and darkness overlap and intertwine within one person, how will the world face you? I'm really looking forward to that scene. Gained 1,300 achievement points. Finally, this achievement was determined to be a joint effort by Hisoka and Kaguya Nami, and was calculated and settled at 1.3 times the achievement points. I'm also really looking forward to the moment when the mystery is solved. Kaguya Nami smiled with anticipation, looking up at the moon obscured by the haze, feeling particularly happy. Night fell. "Master, should we deal with the little mouse that's been following us all along?" Hanafuji asked softly in a voice only the two of them could hear. "How can I let a mouse dirty my hands?" Kaguya Nami should be someone who conquers the world with a smile. He don't always have that deadpan expression. A human smile is a very deceptive power, not necessarily sharper than a killing knife. Kaguya Nami gently rubbed the muscles of her cheeks, and in the night, her smile was more exquisite and beautiful than in the daytime. It's finally dark. Hisoka, lying on the lawn, exhaled bubbles, his tear-streaked face becoming even more alluring and seductive. A flash of crimson light flickered deep within his eyes. As he straightened up, the power of the demon within him quietly revived, making the shadows on the ground even darker and deeper. Behind him, Oni-Saunin emerged from the woods, carrying a body wearing a patterned mask. To avoid attracting attention, I was delayed a bit. Oni-Saunin casually tossed the unconscious root rat onto the lawn. Being hidden was the right thing to do. When we play the mastermind, we need to understand that some things are permissible, but there are 2 rules we must follow as much as possible. First, don't do it in the sunlight. Second, avoid having witnesses unless absolutely necessary. As Hisoka spoke, he crouched down and removed Root's mask, his fingernail gently slicing a bloody gash across the other's face. I will follow your instructions. Oni-Saunin remembered Hisoka's orders. Stop pretending now that you're awake. Hisoka's fingernails pressed against the other's eyelids. The sharp touch made the root member, who had just woken from unconsciousness, only dare to open one eye to look at Hisoka. I hate it when people follow me and spy on me. It makes me feel like all my secrets have been exposed. Hisoka smiled grimly. The last person who followed me like that, I gouged out one of his eyes. Do you think I did the right thing? The root member's face stiffened. He stared at Hisoka in horror. There were strange blood spots appearing in the other's eyes, as if countless scarlet eyes were staring at him from within those pupils. They didn't seem human, they were more like countless demons sharing a human skin to disguise themselves. Monitoring people from other villages is Konoha's standard security measure. It's not malicious against you personally, so you can't hurt me, otherwise, the root member replied, forcing a smile. You're right. How could I hurt you? I was just joking. Hisoka reached out and pulled his hand away from the latter's eyelids, casually asking, did Shimura Danzo send you? The root member swallowed hard. Very good, that's right. Hisoka flicked his finger, and a long, grotesque worm fell onto the latter's eyeball, then burrowed into the eye socket through a hole in the cornea. What is that? The root member was terrified, as if he could hear a wriggling, gnawing sound coming from his skull. I didn't hurt you, I just took over your body. Hisoka lowered his head, his eyes mocking and cruel. By the way, I'm collecting some interest from my dead subordinates. You killed a root member, earning 200 achievement points. Calculated after the Chunin exams, you achieved the achievement, First Kill in Konoha, First Kill in Konoha, you took the first blood in Konoha, reward. 500 achievement points. The corpses of root members lay on the ground, their eyes darting around, their joints stiff and cracking like rusty machines. Then, their movements became increasingly fluid and smooth, their bodies gradually controlled and mastered by the parasites. Go back to Shimura Danzo's side. Hisoka coldly ordered. Root member parasite number 4 picked up the Fallen mask and carefully put it back on. The night was still. A dim shadow blended into the darkness. On either side stood rows of houses arranged in a grid pattern, straight and cold. A crooked telephone pole, burdened by the emptiness, seemed like a lifeless corpse coldly watching this road that connected all the Uchiha. Every Uchiha walked this road to the village every day, then returned to the Uchiha. This road was the bridge connecting the village and the Uchiha. Block the road, turn the nearby barrier upside down, tisk tisk. Entering stealth mode, Hisoka, like a ghost, looked at the road, his mind naturally conjuring up a scene. This wasn't a road at all, on both sides were clearly graves without even tombstones. The Uchiha living in these graves were nothing more than a group of unaware living dead, living to die. No, perhaps they weren't entirely unaware. But this has nothing to do with me. I have no intention of changing the fate of the Uchiha clan. I'm just here to familiarize myself with the stage setting. Hisoka came quietly, left quietly, waving his sleeve, leaving only a scout guard behind. You've achieved the achievement, Night Tour of the Uchiha? Night Tour of the Uchiha? The best stage for a clan's final curtain call is a square cemetery. You just wanted to take a stroll, without any malicious intent. P.S. Do you believe it? Achievement points acquired 500, 3 tedious days flew by. The hard-working figures in the leak field temporarily put down their sickles, sitting quietly cross-legged on the ground, savoring the joy of the harvest, and then poured all their points into the lottery wheel. The first day yielded the most leaks, with a sharp decline on the second and third days, but ultimately, they still accumulated 14,280 points. That is, an unprecedented 14 draw. Chapter 57 14 consecutive draws. Holding his breath, a series of subtitles on his retina seemed to block the road, squeezing his bloodshot eyeballs. 14 consecutive draws. It was truly a bloodbath. You drew something, Kaguya Nami took out a pre-prepared notebook and recorded the prizes drawn from the roulette. A few minutes later, she looked at the categorized results and silently fell into deep thought. Card count. 0, 14 consecutive draws, not a single one, heartbroken and ready to vomit blood. Skill count. 3. They are, iron block, C, accelerates blood flow, speeds up muscle movement, and gives it the hardness of steel, a useless skill that just lets you stand there and get beaten up. Kaguya Nami said she didn't need it at all. Meat hook, C, fires a bloody meat hook at a unit or direction, hooking the first unit it touches back to her side. If it is an enemy unit, it deals damage. Damage. 220 cast range. 130 mana cost. 130 cooldown. 16s. The skill description sounds so-so, but what really caught Kaguya Nami's eye was the 130 meter casting range. Imagine being able to instantly pull an enemy 130 meters away to your side. The visual impact would be quite striking. Ball lightning. B. The body becomes a ball of unstable electricity to move. While in this state, one is immune to all damage. Mana cost. 30 plus total mana 8%. Mana cost increases by 0.65% for every 10 meters moved. Damage. Contact during the current's movement causes damage. The further the movement, the higher the damage, increasing by 8 points for every 10 meters moved. Movement speed. 140 meters per second. This skill explanation is probably more like a math problem. Fortunately, the skill's training memory is like an experience pack inserted into the body, and the memory used looks incredibly cool and flashy. The problem lies in the terrifying mana cost, which is also unbelievable. Kaguya Nami silently calculated in her mind that with her current total mana, if she flew at full speed, this skill would drain her dry in just half a minute. A weakened, energy-efficient version of the Rumble fruit? Why couldn't she just draw Rumble fruit directly? Kaguya Nami was filled with resentment. Speaking of devil fruits, she did indeed draw devil fruits from the miscellaneous items, even drawing 2 in a row. Incidentally, she had a particular fondness for the gacha wheel, spinning it a total of 8 times in the miscellaneous items. The quantity drawn from each of these 8 miscellaneous items was random, but in the end, she obtained a total of 7 skill fusion stones, 2 A-rank skill enhancement cards, 2 devil fruits, 1 asahi, and 1 50% off coupon. Skill fusion stones, as the name suggests, can fuse 2 skills into one. The success rate of fusion depends on the compatibility of the skills and how many stones she spent. 1 skill fusion stone increases the fusion probability by 20%, meaning that 5 stones are guaranteed to recombine any 2 skills into one. The new skill will evolve into even better characteristics based on the original. Note, if fusion fails, both skills will be destroyed and removed. The A-rank skill upgrade card is easy to understand. It can directly upgrade any skill to A rank. Kaguya Nami can't think of any 2 skills she needs to fuse for the time being, and none of her existing skills seem to require an urgent upgrade. She will temporarily store these 2 items for later. Asachi is the prototype of a Zanpakuto. It's shameful to admit that as the successor Soul King of Seireitei, Kaguya Nami has never had her own Zanpakuto. Now, she does, and the moment she touched the hilt, she realized that this Asachi was exclusively hers, and the sword felt connected to her by blood. The most valuable thing is the 50% off coupon, which means that next time, she can unlock a squad leader at half price. Just thinking about it is a little exciting. Last but not least, there are those 2 devil fruits with strange spiral patterns on their surfaces, emanating a strange fragrance from the inside out. Devil fruits, a unique product of the One Piece world. Eating one grants immense power, but the side effect is being cursed by the sea, becoming unable to swim. These 2 devil fruits are, paramecia type, rust fruit, causes objects to rust when touched, paramecia type, string fruit. Allows free manipulation of strings. Devil fruits are difficult to categorize definitively because their underlying mechanisms are completely unscientific. The development of a fruit depends entirely on the user's imagination and talent. They truly exemplify the idea that there are no weak fruits, only weak users. String fruit. Kaguya Nami involuntarily licked her lips. In the One Piece world, this is the devil fruit power possessed by the Shichibuke Dostoevsky. Under his imaginative development, this fruit displayed unparalleled strangeness and power. Eat this fruit? Kaguya Nami was tempted. Moreover, the string fruit seemed to pair well with the ability to stretch and contract freely, perhaps producing unexpected synergy. While Kaguya Nami was pondering something else, one devil fruit can only be paired with one heart. So, when I'm equipped with a Musen Kibutsuji card, I have 7 hearts. Does that mean, theoretically, I can eat 7 devil fruits? This idea thrilled him, and the more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. 10 minutes later, Kaguya Nami had sorted out all the possibilities and coping strategies in his mind. He opened his mouth and bit into the devil fruit. The taste was indescribable. Kaguya Nami's face turned ashen. With extraordinary patience, he swallowed the fruit bit by bit. Devil fruits don't come with experience packs like skills, they require development and refinement from scratch. However, given that Kaguya Nami's attributes were already high, it wouldn't take him too long to develop this fruit. Our personas not only need to be different, but the skills we use should also not be the same, lest a clever person notice something amiss. The main body and the clone completed their communication and their consciousness, making a reasonable allocation plan for their existing abilities. The notes in the notebook have come to a close, containing 2 pieces of equipment and a talent drawn for the first time. The equipment is Lincoln Sphere, A, passive, passively blocks most targeted spells every 12 seconds. Active, temporarily transfers the block to a friendly unit for 12 seconds cast range. 70 meters all attributes plus 14 health regeneration plus 7 energy regeneration plus 5 cooldown. 12 Spectral Scepter, B, grants the user a ghostly form, allowing them to avoid physical damage. Actively enters ghost form for 4 seconds, during which time the user cannot perform basic attacks and will not receive physical damage, but will receive an additional 40% magic damage. P.S. If the user enters a spell immunity state during the active period, the ghostly effect will end. All attributes plus 5, good, cooldown. 20s, Kaguya Nami is satisfied with these 2 survival items. Survival gear can be lifesavers in crucial moments, and Kaguya Nami can never have too much. The remaining item is the talent she obtained on her first draw, water breathing. A, breathing is a power from the depths of the body, and your breath is naturally like flowing water, endlessly seeping into your sword, so, wait in your breath, for the winds of the death forest will blow. Chapter 58 Top Secret Information Revealed. Some readers have mentioned the skills are too varied, so let me explain. The protagonist of this book has various identities, so his abilities aren't limited to any one identity or a fixed system. He possesses a variety of bizarre or fancy skills, making him unpredictable to both enemies and allies, who only ever see the tip of the iceberg. The protagonist's concept is, although I am the Spirit King, I also possess abilities outside the Grim Reaper system, making my subordinates imagine that this Spirit King is beyond comprehension and unfathomable. Although I am the progenitor of demons, I also possess abilities outside the demon system, making my subordinates imagine what this demon king is really like. Later, there are also hollows, curses, etc., but I won't spoil it. Also, you won't draw skills with drastically different art styles, nor will you draw world-destroying skills or characters that can blast through planets with a single shot, so don't worry about inconsistencies. In short, let the protagonist draw skills and cards to show off. Also, the skill gacha system is over, now it's time to accumulate achievement points to unlock the captain. The clashes between systems you want to see are the work of subordinates, the clashes between the Gotei 13 and ninjas, the clashes between demons and ninjas, the clashes between hollows and ninjas, and even the clashes between demons, hollows, and Shinigami themselves. What's Kaguya Nami's connection to them? He's just a kind person with unusual and strange strength. P.S. The Chunin exams will begin in the next chapter. Please buy your tickets and wait. Below is Kaguya Nami's top secret file. Name, Kaguya Nami. Life form, Shinigami, perfect grade armored ghoul, demon body, identity 2/3, Lord of the Seireitei, Spirit King, progenitor of demons. Cards 2/3, Magician Hisoka, A rank 2-star card, Kibutsuji Musen, S rank 3-star card, equipment. 4/6, Shadow Shrine, C, Force Staff, B, Link Sphere, A, Ghost Scepter, B, Health. 4940, 4940 Energy. 4210 Strength. 66 Agility. 110 Spirit. 155 Skill, Shikatsu Mayaku, Ghoul, perfect superposition of Shikatsu Mayaku and Armored Ghoul, Death God Beginner Ability Pack, Slash, Fist, and Ghostly Appearance, Paramecia type string fruit blood demon art, SS, body transformation, S, curse, S, blood sacrifice, A, bending and stretching love, A, ball lightning, B, thin illusion, B, iron body, C, meat hook, C, paper drawing, C, choking dagger, C, talents, immortality, SS, blood curse, SS, perfect mimicry, S, perverted aesthetics, S, magician's deception, A, water breathing, A, items, nicher and blade, C, 10, return scroll, C, 10, parasitic beast egg 10, skill fusion stone 7, A rank skill upgrade card 2, devil fruit 1, Asahi 1, 50% off coupon 1, 280 achievement points remaining, name, blood sacrifice type, active skill quality, A, details, releases blood to baptize an area. The ritual is completed after 2.9 seconds. All enemies within the area will be damaged and silenced. Mana cost, 120 ritual range, 60 meters damage, 240 silence duration, 6s cooldown, 12s. Note, Blood Demon Striggle is a hunter rigorously selected through ritual. More accurately, he is a loyal henchman of the evil gods, the Skinning Twins. He destroyed several countries and drained the blood of all the people for sacrifices. In the process, he honed his skills with blood to the highest level. He is a demon who manipulates blood, suffocating dagger. Throws a dagger at an enemy unit, slowing their movement speed and dealing damage equal to 65 plus 40% of the user's attack damage. It also inherits the attack effects of items and skills, movement speed slowed. 50%, casting range. 750 m, mana cost. 30, cooldown. 4s, paper drawing, unburdening oneself of all strength, one can control their body with ease, as if drawing on paper. This is one of the 6 styles of the Navy, used flexibly in battle to adapt to various situations. Iron block, C, accelerates blood flow, speeding up muscle movement and giving it the hardness of steel. Meat hook, C, fires a bloody meat hook at a unit or direction, hooking the first unit it touches back to the caster. If it is an enemy unit, it deals damage. Damage. 220 casting range. 130 m mana cost. 130 cooldown. 16s, ball lightning, B, the body becomes a ball of unstable electricity for movement. While in this state, the caster is immune to all damage. Mana cost. 30 plus 8% of total mana. Mana cost increases by 0.65% for every 10 meters moved. Damage. Touching objects during the electric current movement will cause damage. The further the movement distance, the higher the damage. Damage increases by 8 points for every 10 meters moved. Movement speed. 140 meters per second equipment, 4 staff, plus 10 intelligence, plus 150 health, active cast, pushes any target unit forward a distance of 1-100 m, mana cost. 100, cooldown. 23s, Shadow Shrine, C, a strange box containing the ashes of a powerful demon. Whenever an energy unit dies near you, its soul is imprisoned and locked in the shrine, thus gaining energy, all attributes plus 2, energy regeneration plus 1.4s, armor plus 2, usage, active cast, when cast on friendly units, provides 30 health regeneration second, when cast on enemy units, deals 25 health damage second. PS, each cast consumes 1 energy point. Recharge is obtained by absorbing the soul of a freshly deceased unit. The deceased unit must have been an energy-containing professional in life, and the target must be within a 400-meter radius. 1 deceased unit equals 1 energy point, current energy points. 3. Lincoln Sphere, A, passive, passively blocks most targeted spells every 12 seconds. Active, temporarily transfers the block to a friendly unit for 12 seconds, cast range. 70 m, all attributes plus 14, health regeneration plus 7, energy regeneration plus 5, cooldown. 12s, Spectral Scepter, B, grants the user a ghostly form, allowing them to avoid physical damage. Active, actively enters ghost form for 4 seconds. During this time, the user cannot perform normal attacks and will not receive physical damage, but will receive an additional 40% spell damage. PS, if the user enters a spell immunity state during activation, the ghostly effect will end. All attributes plus 5, good, cooldown. 20s, item, parasitic egg, a larval unit parasitized by spores, its primary target is the brain. After parasitism, it assimilates with brain cells and manages this brain-dead body. Its secondary target is other tissues within the body, where it coexists with a parasitized unit. It can freely change its shape. All of these are under your control. P.S. Initially, the parasitic egg is very fragile, but it has strong growth potential after parasitism. Please choose your parasitized units carefully. Return scroll, a teleportation scroll from Warcraft III that can teleport the user and nearby friendly units to any of their current locations. No attribute bonuses. But the user is invincible and cannot be interrupted during teleportation. Mana cost 75, casting time 3s, cooldown 65s, Nichiren blade, forged from ore that absorbs sunlight. It is the only weapon capable of damaging demons. Its color varies depending on the user's attributes. Paramecia type, rust fruit, makes objects rust when touched. Paramecia type, string fruit, freely manipulates strings. Card, magicians believe nothing is impossible. Hisoka, you have obtained the character card Hisoka, a rank 2 star card, strength plus 10, agility plus 20, spirit plus 25, talents. 1. Magician's deception, A. 2. Perverted aesthetics, S. Magician's deception, you can see through and utilize all factors in battle. Your fighting style is full of elegance and deception, like watching a beautiful yet deadly magic show. Perverted aesthetics, seek out unripe fruit, persistently cultivate it, and savor the ripe fruit at its peak of bloom and fragrance. With each completion of this process, you will transform into a stronger being. Skills. 1. Bungee gum, A. 2. Lightweight illusion, B. Bungee gum, the nen ability of the transmutation type grants your Aki the properties of both chewing gum and rubber. Lightweight illusion, you can transform your Aki into skin that displays various textures. The progenitor of demons, Musen Kibutsuji, S rank 3 star card, strength plus 20, agility plus 50, spirit plus 80, talents. 1. Immortality, SS, 2. Perfect mimicry, S, 3. Blood curse, SS, immortality, you possess near infinite lifespan, having long since transcended the shackles of life. Within your seemingly human body, you possess 5 brains and 7 hearts, granting you near perpetual motion machine-like regenerative abilities. You can recover instantly from an attack, easily regenerating even if your body is cut to pieces. You are virtually invincible. Perfect mimicry, you can freely alter your appearance, gender, scent, etc. Anything visible to the naked eye can be completely transformed. Gender, age, and race cannot define your existence. You can perfectly conceal yourself among any group. Blood curse, humans bestowed with your blood will be transformed into demons. Skills. 1. Physical transformation, S, 2. Blood demon art, SS, 3. Curse, S. Physical transformation, your body can undergo countless bizarre and unpredictable transformations. Blood demon art, as the progenitor of demons, theoretically, all blood demon art created by demons originates from your blood. You can fully master and wield it. Curse, your blood simultaneously implants curses within demons. Through these curses, you can read their thoughts at close range, monitor their location in real time, and control their life and death. Any demon that dares to betray you or leak your information will be corrupted by the curse and die weakness. You are cursed by sunlight. Continuous exposure to sunlight will cause you to vanish into nothingness. Items methods related to sunlight will have a certain degree of restraint on you. P.S. You have unlocked a new identity, the progenitor of demons. You are the source of demons. You created the demon race. As long as you live, demons will never perish. The information of all the demons you have ever created exists in your blood bank. This means that if you are willing to pay a price, you can even resurrect demons that have already perished. As long as you live, demons will never perish. Chapter 59, was he passively made the central figure? This year's Chunin exams didn't include a written test. Why should ninjas, tools of killing, be humiliated with a written exam? The opening act was the Forest of Death. The dark, damp forest was surrounded by rusty barbed wire. A slowly opening iron gate revealed a path, and horse crows, startled awake from the trees, circled overhead. The wind whistled cruelly through the shadows of the trees. Exam rules, no rules. Collect the corresponding scrolls and reach the central tower at the exit alive, the examiner announced. The scrolls were divided into heaven and earth. Each group of examinees received one scroll randomly and had to steal the missing scroll from other examinees to complete the Heaven and Earth scrolls, 24 hours. Begin now. The words fell. A spinning playing card slashed towards the examiner's throat. The examiner's pupils constricted, and his neck immediately arched back. But the playing card abruptly stopped spinning, bouncing straight towards him like a venomous snake's fangs, vicious and insidious. A hand appeared out of thin air, precisely grasping the playing cards. A kunai swung down, severing the invisible threads clinging to the cards. The card belonged to a masked Anbu member, whose crimson Sharingan stared indifferently at Hisoka. It was Uchiha Itachi. Since their parting that day, he hadn't been able to trust Hisoka, so he directly applied to the Hokage to serve as an examiner assisting in maintaining order during the Chunin exams. "What are you doing?" The examiner stared at Hisoka with an unfriendly expression, a faint bloodstain seeping from his neck. "There weren't any rules, so I tried to take both scrolls from you at the start. That shouldn't be against the rules, right? Unfortunately, I failed." Hisoka flicked another playing card, his gaze calmly sweeping over the examiner. "Now, let me add one more rule. You cannot attack the examiners, or you will be disqualified from the exam." The examiner, feeling uneasy under his gaze, added this rule. "What a pity." Hisoka blew a bubble, took the black umbrella from Oni no Kami, and gracefully strode into the Iron Gate alone. On the Grass Ninja exam roster, Hisoka was in a solo group. He'd have to carry his own umbrella for this exam. He casually pulled a scroll from the Anbu beside him, then tossed it to Kaguya Nami, laughing. "Nami, I don't like this scroll, so it's yours." "Thank you." Kaguya Nami caught the scroll. There was no reason to refuse, so she politely thanked him. "You guys better hurry up and bring my scroll in." Hisoka rubbed a deck of cards in his hand, smiling at the other bewildered examinees. "One last piece of advice, don't even think about taking the scroll from Kaguya Nami." His words echoed through the crowd, and Hisoka's figure shot backward into the death forest, like a kite being pulled backward, disappearing into the dark woods. "Is this a provocation?" The Anbu member who distributed the scrolls glanced at Kaguya Nami with pity, lamenting that the poor kid had become the target of everyone's ire and a piece of meat in the eyes of all the examinees before the exam even started. At this moment, most of the examinees were staring at Kaguya Nami with veiled but malicious eyes. The scroll he had luckily obtained from Hisoka, along with the scrolls the Anbu had given them, would just be enough to complete a pair of Heaven and Earth scrolls. What good luck. I guess I can consider myself to have collected them all now? Kaguya Nami seemed completely unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. He waved the scroll in his hand at the examiner, grinning gleefully. "Well, the rules don't forbid transferring them. You've collected them all." The examiner's expression was like he'd swallowed fly droppings, but facing that bright, innocent smile, he couldn't bring himself to get angry. He could only grit his teeth and remind her, "You also need to bring the scrolls and walk into the central tower alive." "Yes, I know." Kaguya Nami tossed 2 scrolls to Hanafujigoku and Onisanin. The two took the scrolls and tied them to their backs, standing behind him like bodyguards. For the examinees, snatching scrolls from other groups was uncertain. They might end up with the same scrolls as their own after a fierce battle, a huge loss. But now, however, one group of examinees had their cards revealed. As long as they grabbed them, they would be all set. As for Hisoka's seemingly admonitory threat at the end, most examinees simply ignored it. In short, their apprehension towards Hisoka mirrored their contempt for Kaguya Nami, creating a paradoxical imbalance in their minds. The very Hisoka they feared showed special respect for the Kaguya Nami they looked down upon, making them collectively feel insulted. They were jealous. The only one who didn't think this way was Uchiha Itachi. Based on his brief encounter with Hisoka, he was certain Hisoka was a madman. A madman's thought process defies normal logic, and madmen typically disdain underhanded tactics. Therefore, Hisoka's advice shouldn't be taken literally, it should be interpreted directly. Don't mess with Kaguya Nami. He also noticed that the person who held the umbrella for Hisoka that day, Oni Suzuki, was now Kaguya Nami's follower, and the other person standing beside him was also holding a black umbrella. Another madman with an umbrella? And those who, like Hisoka, have the same standard entourage, could they really be simple and kind characters? Itachi Uchiha remained expressionless, but a chill crept into his heart. He glanced discreetly at Kaguya Nami, who wore an innocent smile, memorizing that smile in her name. Another person who felt a slight worry about Kaguya Nami's current situation was Kakashi Hatake, also wearing an Anbu mask and standing in a more concealed position. He didn't have as many thoughts running through his mind as Itachi. He simply didn't want the smiling, sunny, Kaguya Nami, whom he had met once or twice, to die so easily in this forest. The reason, even Kakashi himself couldn't explain, was simply frustration and sundeer. After everyone received the scroll, they all strangely and tacitly remained still, their gazes fixed on Kaguya Nami. Thanks to Hisoka, he too was now the center of attention on the stage. The nature of the situation was completely different. Kaguya Nami had been passively made a lamb to the slaughter. "Aren't you all going in? The exam is timed." Kaguya Nami, seemingly oblivious to the situation, glanced at the shifty eyes around her and kindly reminded them. "Why aren't you going in?" a shrill voice asked. "No rush, I've collected all my scrolls anyway. I don't need to rush under the sun, I'm afraid of getting a tan. I prefer walking at night." Kaguya Nami answered somewhat shyly. Behind her, Hanafuji Sadara meticulously held up an umbrella, his pale, delicate face making the ashamed examinees unable to refute his reasoning. In a short while, most of the examinees wisely abandoned their wicked thoughts of clinging to Kaguya Nami, and scattered into the Death Forest, officially beginning the grand drama of the Chunin exams. Two groups remained, loyally keeping a close watch on Kaguya Nami. One group consisted of the pimple-faced student whose hands were still bandaged, and the other group was 3 Konoha Uchiha members with conjunctivitis. The reason the students left so decisively was because they saw the little lamb being targeted by the hungry wolves of the Uchiha. They calculated in their minds that even if they stole Kaguya Nami's scroll, they might not be able to keep their gains under the Uchiha's watchful eye. It wasn't worth it, so they left. The wind blew quietly. The clouds in the sky were gradually blown in, obscuring the sun. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 60. Even when you're crazy, keep a low profile. The sun was gradually obscured by clouds, its red glow staining half the sky. A kite, suspended by a string, drifted eerily through the woods, resembling a giant white bat flitting about. Zooming in, however, revealed it wasn't a bat or a kite at all, but rather a strange figure, like a playing card, hanging upside down from a tree. A chilling wind swept through the forest, rustling the falling leaves. An invisible scout perched atop the treetop, its enormous, menacing eyes darting about, surveying the ground. Any examinee attempting to pass through the central tower would inevitably be exposed to Hisoka's gaze. Like a gatekeeper boss, any group of examinees who had collected the heavenly scrolls and wished to advance to the next level would have to face the boss's test. The game begins now. Let me see who the first group of examinees to arrive will be. Hisoka licked his lips with interest. The image projected onto his retina was 3 figures running rapidly. 2 carried scrolls on their backs, while the third stared with deadpan, pale eyes, surveying their surroundings. All 3 wore headbands with leaf patterns on their foreheads. "Hey, from Konoha. Looks like their luck isn't so good." A playing card flicked out from between his fingers, caught by Hisoka and tossed casually, tracing an irregular arc in the air. "Stop." The veins around his eyes bulged menacingly, and a murderous intent suddenly flashed across his pale eyeballs. He saw a playing card spinning, bouncing, and weaving through the gaps in the forest, like a venomous creature suddenly emerging from behind the leaves, viciously biting at his teammate's forehead. Hyuga Madara stopped abruptly, shoving aside his unresponsive teammate. The playing card was spinning too fast. In the instant it emerged from behind the leaves, its spinning blade had already sliced through the leaf patterns on the headband. Swoosh! The teammate, suddenly pushed to the ground, felt a chill on his forehead. 2 pieces of his headband snapped in the middle, sliding down the sides of his eyes, splattering blood almost overflowing his eye sockets, nose, and lips, dripping in a straight line down the center. Dead. A playing card was nailed to the center of his forehead, most of it embedded in his face, the other half sticking out, stained red by the splattered blood. The 4 of spades was bathed in red. A horrifying sight. Hyuga Madara's scalp tingled. He abruptly looked up, and a figure silently appeared, half crouching on a tree branch, hands hanging naturally forward, several playing cards faintly visible at his fingertips, forming a blurry afterimage. "I can't see it." Hyuga Madara stared intently, vaguely seeing threads as thin as hair, swirling like eddies between Hisoka's fingers, densely packed like a ball of yarn, yet with gaps between them, not truly tangled. Terrifying control. Are those chakra threads? They seem to be growing directly from his fingers. Madara Hyuga stared intently, then saw the dense mass of threads scattering in the wind like a spiderweb descending from the sky, enveloping his teammate beside him. Get out of the way. What? In the brief exchange, the teammate stared blankly at the air in terror, then his body instantly froze, his joints cracking and snapping, twisting into an inhuman posture. My body, it's out of control. Ah, it hurts. The joints twisted and spun strangely, skin cracked and muscles snapped, producing a teeth-grinding sound. Madara Hyuga watched as blood gushed from his teammate's joints. Under his X-ray vision, he could see the bones beneath the skin breaking inch by inch into bizarre, twisted shapes. Crack. 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 Inhuman. Its body was twisted into the shape of an arthropod, its chest bulging and pressed against the ground, its limbs bent backwards pointing at Madara Hyuga. It then crawled along the ground, howling as its limbs contorted into bizarre and terrifying shapes, hacking and slashing wildly. Like a spider with a human face. A chill ran down Madara Hyuga's spine, goosebumps rising on his back. Such a cruel and grotesque scene was far beyond his mental limits. It was just a Chunin exam. Why did such a freak exist? Watching the screaming, snot and tears streaming down its face, yet its body wielding inhuman limbs with ferocious ferocity, relentlessly attacking its teammate, Madara Hyuga's mind was on the verge of collapse. Stop. Stop. We'll give you all the scrolls. Madara Hyuga frantically dodged. Undoubtedly, the pressure from his teammate in this state was unlike anything he'd ever felt before. Faster, more powerful, and with more unpredictable and vicious attacks, but blood also gushed from every joint, spraying onto Madara Hyuga's face. No one would want to gain power this way. Like a puppet being manipulated at will. The scroll? Not for something so pointless. Hisoka squatted on a branch, gently fiddling with it with his fingers. I just want to play the role of an examiner. Examiner? Madara Hyuga didn't understand what Hisoka was saying, but that only made him more terrified. This guy might be a madman. Yes, isn't becoming the true examiner of the Forest of Death more interesting than being a candidate? Hisoka grinned, blowing a pink bubble. I'll choose some candidates I like and set their own tests. Only those who pass can enter the central tower for the next round of exams. Sounds interesting, right? Hisoka twisted his neck. It was unclear whether he was explaining this to Madara Hyuga or to someone who liked to spy in the shadows. Hisoka equals madman. This character is more three-dimensional and well-developed now. A madman acts entirely out of interest and hobbies, defying common sense. Hisoka needs this persona to conceal his true intentions, which also provides the most reasonable explanation for some of his seemingly illogical actions later on. After all, he can't just say he has a debt to collect from Konoha and declare that no Konoha examinee can survive to the next round on the stage of the Forest of Death. Being too arrogant is not good. Playing a madman requires a lot of acting skills, and given the limited time, Hisoka had no choice but to make the stage somewhat cruel and bloody. Remember, this is not his true intention. You are the first group of examinees to arrive, so I'll give you a simple test. Only one of you and your teammate can survive. Who do you hope it is? Hisoka's 5 fingers paused, and the puppet he was controlling stopped in front of Hyuga Madara. A broken limb gripped a kunai and slashed Madara's headband, revealing the caged bird seal hidden on the back. What did you say? Madara Hyuga stood frozen in place, staring at his teammate who was right next to him. They both saw their own distorted, zenning, meaning ferocious or hideous, faces reflected in each other's eyes. The will of fire, isn't that the philosophy your Konoha upholds? I've always been curious, besides Kaguya and Nami. Are there really any people in this world willing to sacrifice themselves for others? I'm curious, what kind of answer would a ninja nurtured by Konoha give? Hisoka's expression was serious, like a scholar exploring human nature, but the meaning behind his words sent a chill down Madara Hyuga's spine. Behind a tree, a pair of crimson Sharingan eyes coldly watched from beneath a mask. Inside the central tower, Hiruzen Seireitei, his face covered in wrinkles, a pipe dangling from his mouth, hadn't been smoked in a long time. He peered down at the scene in the crystal ball. Standing beside him was Danzo Shimura, his face wrapped in bandages, his expression cold and sinister. I originally planned to post this at 5 o'clock, but I'm posting it early. I'm completely out of drafts, damn it. Chapter 61, Trial, Salvation? Why would you spy on the Shinan's exam? Shimura Danzo glanced coldly at the crystal ball. He had witnessed too many morbid and cruel things in his life, and the scene before him did not move him. Uchiha Itachi applied to participate in maintaining order during this Chunin exam. I want to know what he cares about in this Chunin exam? Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe and exhaled a cloud of smoke. Uchiha Itachi was paying attention to this Jinan from Kusagakure? The thought instantly crossed Shimura Danzo's mind, and he naturally connected it to the box of bliss. His face remained expressionless, without the slightest ripple of emotion. I heard that Root has been paying close attention to Kusagakure's movements recently. Sarutobi Hiruzen asked casually. Kusagakure and the Uchiha may have had some private contact. I had Root keep an eye on things, but so far, they haven't found anything suspicious. Shimura Danzo replied casually. During the Chunin exams, many eyes were fixed on Konoha. Hiruzen Sarutobi pointed out, not delving further. He knew perfectly well that his old partner was up to something shady behind his back again. Danzo Shimura nodded expressionlessly, indicating he knew what to do. The conversation ended. Danzo Shimura left expressionlessly, uninterested in the scene unfolding in the crystal ball. Or perhaps, staying would only embarrass the third Hokage. The will of fire? Sacrificing oneself for others. Hiruzen Sarutobi took a drag on his cigarette, then wiped the image from the crystal ball, revealing its original, crystal-clear purity. You ask him if he believes in the will of fire? Of course, he does. He put on the Hokage hat, concealing his old, bark-like face, his cloudy, yellowish eyes peering at Konoha through the white veil. Painful huddles, violent panting. Who yearns more for life? Save me. I don't want to die. His teammate, manipulated like a puppet, stared intently at Madara Hyuga, his face contorted with pain. How can I save you? Madara couldn't bear to meet those bloodshot eyes. Go, kill Hisoka? Or, you've always hated fate, always talking about a caged bird. If that's the case, then die. Let me live. A piercing wail, filled with a distorted yearning and resentment, stripped of all pretense, revealed the deepest, most fundamental fear of humanity. Looks like you didn't choose the will of fire. How disappointing. Hisoka vanished from the tree, reappearing behind him, his head tilted listlessly, his eyes fixed on Madara. What will you choose now? Madara's heart leaped into his throat as he looked at the head appearing behind his companion. Hisoka awaited his answer. I did say I hated fate, and I've always loathed the cursed mark on my head. I even thought about dying, but I'm sorry. Madara Hyuga's eyes widened, his eye sockets bulging, his white eyeballs stained with blood. He roared hysterically, now, I don't want to die. His words fell. The bubbles from Hisoka's mouth burst open. He lightly flicked his fingers, muttering, as expected, only Kaguya Nami is special. All other lives are meaningless. Only death can bring these lives sublimation. The limbs bound by threads twisted and turned, like blades aimed at Madara Hyuga's neck, but the latter grabbed his wrist, simultaneously bending his right elbow and slamming it down hard at the twisted joint. Crack! The piercing sound of bones snapping was deafening. The twisted, deformed limbs were torn apart. And the agonizing screams and struggles seemed to act as a catalyst, fully unleashing Hyuga Madara's ferocity. He ripped off the bone, twisted it with lightning speed, and plunged it into the latter's throat, twisting it with his movements. The wailing abruptly ceased, leaving only the hissing sound of air leaking out. Large amounts of blood splattered on Hyuga Madara's face, and he glared angrily, watching those venomous eyes gradually turn a deathly gray. The corpse, freed from its restraints, slumped to the ground. I passed your test. Hyuga Madara's face was contorted with bulging veins, his throat parched. He looked at Hisoka approaching, his muscles tense and stiff, seemingly devoid of strength, and only managed to speak in a hoarse voice. Ugh. I see. Your expression is good. Only in the face of death can one see their true self, but that's far from enough to become my prey. So, for now, I'll let you live and grow. Hyuga Madara gritted his teeth, the bulging veins on his forehead making the caged bird seal even uglier and more ferocious. But for some reason, he suddenly felt that real, unrestrained feeling of breathing. Those who desperately struggle for survival deserve the right to live and breathe. Hisoka grabbed Hyuga Madara's hair, his left knee slamming into the latter's chest. Ugh! Hyuga Madara bent over, feeling several ribs break. His diaphragm blocked his breath, his head spun, and his ears rang. Yet, he seemed to hear a sinister voice imprinted into the deepest part of his mind. Live, but your suffering has only just begun. Endure it, break free of this cage, or I'll kill you the next time we meet. Hyuga Madara strained his eyes, his blurred vision reflecting Hisoka's tear-streaked face, the eerie, dreamlike voice echoing in his ears. This scene was destined to become a nightmare that would haunt him for countless nights. At this moment, he couldn't understand the deeper meaning behind Hisoka's words. He only knew that he had probably survived. Hisoka stepped over the unconscious Hyuga Madara, completely ignoring the scroll lying on the ground. To him, the Chunin exam stage set up by Konoha had become a hunting game. Shortly after he left, Anbu and medical ninjas appeared at the spot, checked the two corpses to confirm death, and then carried the unconscious Hyuga Madara away. Hyuga Madara had passed Hisoka's test, but was still forced to withdraw from the exam midway, perhaps the happiest thing in Hyuga Madara's dreams. Hisoka drifted eerily through the forest, stopping a few breaths later and turning to look at the person behind him. What exactly are you doing this for? A flat voice came from beneath the mask, and a crimson, malevolent Sharingan locked onto Hisoka. Itachi Uchiha didn't entirely believe Hisoka's explanation of a test game. Hisoka habitually blew bubbles, looking at Itachi with a half-smile. Then why do you think it is? Itachi Uchiha was silent for a moment, then asked again, why set up that kind of test? Killing, hunting, the game has no special meaning. I'm just satisfying my curiosity. Hisoka shrugged, giving an answer consistent with a madman's thought process. You always like to overcomplicate things. Actually, you don't need to think, the world becomes very simple. If I had to give a reason, I'm just looking for and cultivating delicious prey. Prey? Itachi Uchiha pondered. Yes, the world is a hunting ground, and for a hunter, losing the prey means losing everything. Hisoka said without hesitation, most lives are meaningless, true life always blossoms in the darkest places. For me, when they blossom, that's when I reap the rewards. That unripe apple just now passed the selection and is qualified to grow into prey. The same applies to that flower bud you've been nurturing in the greenhouse. Hisoka licked the chewing gum off his lips and explained very politely to Uchiha Itachi, believing that the other would understand the implication in his words. Hunter, prey, searching, nurturing, what a madman. Uchiha Itachi narrowed his eyes, gaining a deeper understanding of Hisoka. He gave Hisoka a meaningful look, and then his figure silently transformed into a flock of crows and disappeared from the spot. You overthink things, that's why you live such a tiring life? Hisoka rubbed his temples, chuckling inwardly. Unlike me, I'm just a simple madman. The game had only just begun, only one group of Konoha examinees had been eliminated. This examiner's game wouldn't end until all of them were eliminated. What kind of test should I set for the next one? Hisoka glanced up at the sky. The dim sun was gradually swallowed by the encroaching blackness, and his retina subtly reflected the other groups of examinees approaching the central tower. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the Forest of Death, the rusty iron gate creaked in the wind. A small black spider, its silk snapped, spun and drifted in the wind. Kaguya Nami, sitting cross-legged under a black umbrella with her eyes closed, suddenly opened her eyes, stretched out a finger, hooked a broken silk, and gently supported the small spider. It's getting dark. Kaguya Nami looked up at the night sky, a delicate and warm smile on her face. Hearing this, Hanafuda Sadara folded his umbrella and slung it over his shoulder. Oniso Nana, however, gave the two groups of candidates, the acne-faced and Uchiha, a cold, almost dead look. We should hurry, or we'll miss the next round of exams. Kaguya Nami stood up and walked towards the open iron gate. She ran her finger across the rusty wire mesh, and the lost spider crawled back into its web, trembling and stiff in the center. Ridiculous. The acne-faced and Uchiha candidates simultaneously showed disdainful contempt. They only saw Kaguya Nami's gentle kindness, but they didn't see the spider's trembling, stiff body, or even its reluctance to bite the dead insect stuck to its web. Humans pride themselves on their intelligence, but often, their brains aren't even as big as a spider's. Want to travel together? Kaguya Nami extended a friendly invitation. Alright, ha ha ha. The pimple-faced man let out a grotesque laugh, his gaze towards Kaguya Nami as if she were a fool. The Uchiha trio, seemingly cut from the same mold, simultaneously tightened and pulled down the orbicularis oris muscles around their mouths, revealing disdainful sneers, their 6 scarlet eyes staring blankly into the air. Kaguya Nami was treated like a fish on a chopping board by these 6 eyes, while the ugly pimple-faced trio didn't even deserve a glance. The group of 9 moved quickly through the forest, the atmosphere so eerie that even the birds, beasts, and insects sensed the danger, remaining silent and afraid to make a sound. Let's stop here. The Uchiha trio, trailing at the very end of the group, broke the silence, the three of them simultaneously spreading out to form a triangular encirclement, trapping the other six in the center. Kaguya Nami seemed to finally sense the malice. He frowned and sighed. He always assumed the best interests of others, but in the end, he was always hurt by the wickedness of human nature. Acne-Faced's expression changed, and he hurriedly shouted, misunderstanding. We don't want to steal those two scrolls. We only followed him because we have a personal grudge against him that we want to settle. The scrolls are yours, we just want to teach him a lesson. The three Uchiha exchanged glances and nodded silently, agreeing to Acne-Faced's suggestion. Acne-Faced's face immediately revealed a cruel smile. He tore off the bandages wrapped around his hands, revealing several fingers that had been reattached, still bearing scars and stitches. Last time, I couldn't scratch your face, but this time, no one will save you. Acne-Faced grinned, revealing his vicious nature, perfectly playing the villain in the story. In contrast, Kaguya Nami, with her delicate and gentle face, showed a hint of sorrow and disappointment, a standard righteous face. Why are you so obsessed with scratching other people's faces? Destroying beautiful things is a sin, do you understand? Kaguya Nami earnestly advised, trying to reason with Acne-Faced to change his ways. Acne-Faced man's face turned ashen. He wanted to see Kaguya Nami's terrified and begging appearance, not her pitying tone as she tried to reason with him. Jealousy and anger are sins rooted deep in human nature. You should learn to face and overcome these emotions, instead of being controlled by them. You must understand that beauty and ugliness are not about the physical appearance, but about whether the soul has been purified. Kaguya Nami patiently offered her final words of persuasion and appeal. Although you may not be conventionally beautiful, you can still possess a beautiful soul. What do you think? Acne-Faced man's eyes glazed over for a moment, then filled with rage. He felt utterly insulted, both physically and spiritually. I'll scratch your face and tear your mouth apart. Acne-Faced man roared hoarsely, his cheeks bulging with cruel jaw muscles. His ugly face, swollen with rage, was more terrifying than a ferocious demon. Don't come any closer. Kaguya Nami's pupils contracted to vertical, her terrifying dynamic vision allowing her to catch the trajectory of pus-filled fluid splattering in the air. Her expression changed drastically. Your stubbornness will only cause your soul to suffer and harm others. Since that's the case, I can only choose the method that minimizes the harm to save you. Kaguya Nami spoke rapidly, but her enunciation was extremely clear, each word reaching the ears of everyone present, including a certain arrogant Anbu member with silver-gray hair and a mask, hiding in the woods. Looking at the claws aimed at her cheek, it was as if yesterday was replaying in her mind. Kaguya Nami exhaled softly, her hand resting on her sword at her waist. She drew it from its sheath, the cold blade flashing like a clear, chilling spring. Water breathing, first form, water surface slash. Can you feel it? The cold water is cleansing the filth in my blood. The blade returned to its sheath. Blood splattered. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. Let's figure out who the sheep is. The blade, sharp as a swift spring, chillingly severed bone. The sword was drawn, severing skin, muscle, blood vessels, and claws all at once. A jet of blood sprayed as the severed hand crashed to the ground. Thud. The pimple-faced man's cruel little eyes were swallowed by a wave of terror, quickly clouded by a dark despair. The shift from perpetrator to victim always caught him completely off guard. It was a heartbreakingly familiar sight, the difference being that last time only 5 fingers were severed, this time, not even the palm remained. The bare wrist was smooth and clean, blood spurting with a sizzling sound. The only constant was the bright, gentle, compassionate, delicate smile so close to him. So, what went wrong? Hisoka only cut off 5 of my fingers, why did Kaguya Nami cut off my entire hand? Wasn't she just a kind, foolish sheep? The dual stimulation of pain and fear sent the pimple-faced man into a mental storm. Looking at Kaguya Nami's calm, weak face again, he suddenly felt an unprecedented chill run down his spine. Compassionate and serene, Kaguya Nami, fierce and ruthless, Hisoka, who is the more morbid and dangerous one? He couldn't find the answer to this question, but he realized that neither of them was a lamb. Only the ones baring their teeth were the real lambs from beginning to end. You seem to have misunderstood. Kindness is not the same as cowardice. I can tolerate your stupidity and ugliness because, after becoming accustomed to it, I am still willing to give you a chance to correct your mistakes. Kaguya Nami took a step back, not letting the blood stain her clothes. Sheathing her sword slowly, she explained methodically, but tolerance has its limits. If kind words and persuasion don't work, and instead embolden you, then I will have no choice but to draw my sword and sever your evil claws, just like clear, transparent water, which can gently embrace everything, but can also cleanse and purify sin. Her cold, clean voice, neither too loud nor too soft, flowed like a gentle stream into everyone's ears. The two teammates with acne-covered faces changed color simultaneously, and a serious look appeared in the three pairs of red eyes on the outer edge. The script was not going as they had all rehearsed. The same calm smile remained, but the atmosphere suddenly shifted, as if the roles of prey and hunter had been quietly reversed. Clang. Sparks flew as metal scraped against metal. Acne Face snapped back to reality, his other hand gripping a kunai and stabbing it fiercely at Kaguya Nami's neck, but it felt like scraping against an iron plate, producing blinding sparks but no blood. One of the 6 powers of the Navy, Iron Body. Kaguya Nami stood still, turning to look at Acne Face frozen in place, and sighed softly. I gave you too many chances, but you were too stubborn and refused to cherish them. Kaguya Nami withdrew her gaze and brushed past Acne Face. I used to think that goodness was tolerance and forgiveness, but later I realized that was just hypocrisy. True goodness is not just forgiveness, but also having the courage to be ruthless, daring to cut away the rotten, festering evil. Since you rely on force to tear apart beauty, then I will sever your hands, so that you can no longer do evil. Acne Face stiffly lowered his head, watching helplessly as a line of blood appeared on his other wrist, and the severed hand silently slid off. At the same time, the two smooth, bleeding wrists turned a withered gray in a bizarre way. A pain as if the soul had been torn apart belatedly spread throughout his body. These two hands can't be reattached. Acne Face had a sudden realization, as if instinctively sensing a terrifying truth. Unlike the 5 fingers that could be reattached after being severed last time, this time, the wrists were not only severed at the root but also killed, with absolutely no possibility of reattachment. The pain is only temporary, but the soul, cleansed of its sins, will find peaceful beauty in the future. I believe you will understand in the future. Words like a doctor saving a life entered Acne Face's mind from behind. Acne Face just stared at the two severed hands with a deathly pale face. Perhaps, as Kaguya Nami said, the resentment in his heart had been wiped away, leaving only a deathly silence. Forgive what can be forgiven. Sever what cannot be forgiven. The world will then become more benevolent. Do you think what I'm saying makes sense? The Acne Face teammate. The Uchiha trio. Kaguya Nami lightly flicked away the bloodstains from her sword. It was a blade as white as bone, its blade rippling as if it were breathing with its own life. Asachi, the prototype of his Zanpakuto, was imbued with the power of breathing by Kaguya Nami. Just as Kaguya Nami spoke and made her move, Oniso and Hanafuji had already understood and spread out, blocking the escape routes of the Acne Face teammate and the Uchiha trio on the left and right respectively. They remained silent and expressionless, like two breathing statues, scanning them with eyes that seemed to look at the dead. The Uchiha trio remained calm. Although the situation was beyond their expectations, they still had strong confidence that the outcome would not change. Neither a real sheep nor a wolf in sheep's clothing could be a match for the Uchiha clan. They had already secured the championship in this Chunin exams. The pimple-faced team had panicked, which was understandable. Most bullies were also ugly and cowardly at heart. Their outward appearance might seem ferocious and terrifying, but they were nothing more than a foul-smelling tumor, easily crushed with a gentle poke. Just looking at them was an eyesore. This question might be too profound for you. Let me put it simply, do you think you should be forgiven, or cut off, to make the world a better place? Before the words even finished, crackling arcs of electricity exploded, a bolt of lightning tearing through the air, revealing a human figure between the two pimple-faced teammates. Had the person turned into electricity? Or had the electricity turned into a person? Can someone explain this scene to me using ninjutsu? The three Uchiha clan members' expressions changed drastically, their crimson eyes filled with bewilderment and confusion. They exchanged a glance, then shook their heads. Their Sharingan could only vaguely discern a fragment, unable to capture the trajectory of the electric arc or see through the transformation between electricity and person. The only thing they were certain of was that their previously inflated confidence suddenly deflated like a squeezed sponge. In the distant woods, Kakashi, who had been worried for Kaguya Nami, inadvertently witnessed a brilliant reversal and fell into deep thought because of the discussion about true goodness and hypocrisy. Then, his pupils contracted sharply as he saw Kaguya Nami suddenly vanish into a streak of lightning, his facial muscles beneath his mask stiffening with shock. Flying Thunder God technique? No. It really transformed directly into lightning. Kakashi doubted his vision. He bit his numb tongue, raised his hand, and gently moved the headband covering his other eye, revealing the Sharingan hidden in its socket, the black tomo spinning within. Chapter 63 The Unfathomable, Human. The Sharingan can see the flow of chakra within a person, allowing them to directly decipher the code of ninjutsu and copy it. Also known as the freeloader eye, its plagiarism ability is measured by the number of tadpoles within the Sharingan. Kakashi Hatake is the king of this freeloader realm, known as the copy ninja for copying thousands of common ninjutsu, his infamy known far and wide. Let me take a look. Huh? Why is my vision so blurry? His body is covered with a thin film, flowing like water, blocking the Sharingan's ability to spy. How could this person be so wicked? Why would he cover his body with a film for no reason? It couldn't be just to prevent him from spying, it must be a constant, 24/7 cover. Doesn't he get tired? Kakashi Hatake was speechless. He had never seen anyone so obsessed with privacy, it was utterly insane. If everyone wore a protective membrane like Kaguya Nami before going out, the future market potential of the Sharingan and Byakugan would be worrisome. Undeterred by his inability to decipher the truth behind the electricity, Kakashi turned his attention to studying the membrane on Kaguya Nami's body. Water flow? A condensed state of chakra? Kakashi's brow furrowed deeper, he couldn't even understand a single membrane. It resembled chakra because the membrane possessed an energy form, flowing around her body, much like a sophisticated manipulation of chakra. Yet it didn't resemble chakra because the density and color of the energy, as reflected by the Sharingan, were completely different from any chakra he had ever seen before. Was this mutated state of chakra a special bloodline limit, or the result of some secret technique? Kakashi Hatake possessed keen insight, but his ingrained perspective and traditional way of thinking prevented him from breaking free from the constraints of ninjutsu. In short, Kaguya Nami seemed veiled in his eyes, hazy and indistinct. Even her smiling face appeared unreal. But it was precisely because of this that Kakashi found Kaguya Nami to be more real. After all, a purely kind and gentle smile was out of place in the ninja world, and to those with discerning eyes, it would seem somewhat fake. Hypocrisy? True kindness? What kind of person was behind that bright and delicate smile? Kakashi held his breath, continuing to silently observe the changing situation. Electricity, manifested in human form. Kaguya Nami stood between the two, her right hand resting on the hilt of her sword. Her slender eyes glanced at them from the corner of her eye. Which of you will answer my question first? Her voice was gentle and calm, but paired with that delicate face, to the two, she seemed like a painted ghost reciting the death knell's lines. I haven't done anything yet, I should be forgiven, right? Teammate A, with acne-faced features, froze, his eyes darting to Kaguya Nami's hand, which was fixed on the knife. That hand was slender and delicate, a rare, cold white, without a single blue vein, beautiful as a work of art. Good and evil are judged by the heart, not by the actions. It seems you still haven't recognized the evil in your heart. It's alright, I'll help you. The blade spun, blood gushing forth, the wrist severed cleanly at the root and falling into the mud. Hands are ninja's most important tool. A ninja without hands naturally lacks the ability to commit evil. Lacking the ability, evil thoughts can only slowly dissipate from the body. And you? Kaguya Nami turned to teammate B, with acne-faced features, the blood-stained blade lightly touching the latter's wrist. The latter's hair stood on end, cold sweat pouring down his back. To choose forgiveness, to have a hand severed. Then, to choose not to be forgiven? No, I was wrong, I shouldn't be forgiven. Acne-faced teammate B answered, tears streaming down his face. Kaguya Nami nodded upon hearing this, and amidst the latter's ecstatic gaze, she lightly sheathed her sword. Forgiven. Acne-faced teammate B's eyes widened, inwardly praising his quick wit. So, as long as you agree with him, you can fool him. So true, so hypocritical, ugh, utterly nonsensical. Kaguya Nami squinted at acne-faced teammate B, turned and left, walking towards the three Uchiha. Behind him, acne-faced teammate B dared not look back, only lowering his head, his eyes showing no gratitude for being forgiven, only suppressed anger and resentment. He remained there, head bowed and eyes wide, when then he seemed to hear something being torn apart in his skull. Next, he was horrified to see his two palms gradually turning grayish-brown from the base of his fingers, the grayish-brown color rapidly eroding and spreading towards his wrists. No blood flowed. No severed limbs. Skin, blood vessels, muscles, bones, nerves, all silently died, becoming two pieces of dead flesh hanging from his wrists, devoid of feeling, only a piercing pain and terror spreading from the depths of his soul throughout his body, completely engulfing him like a dead sea. Those two hands are dead. The three Uchiha gasped in shock. In their vision, the two hands were clearly connected to the muscles and bones of his body, but the chakra and blood within his body strangely turned back midway, not flowing there at all. It was as if a clear line of death had been drawn at his wrists, so much so that, in his physical perception, the hands, which were clearly still there, simply did not exist. What bizarre swordsmanship! The three Uchiha's throats were slightly dry. Their vision also could not penetrate the nen membrane covering Kaguya Nami's body, but they could see that the sword Kaguya Nami held in her hand seemed to breathe. The blade appeared to merely brush against the skin of the person's arm, yet a ripple of energy, like breath, seep into the body, cruelly severing the life force and breath from the wrist. Could swordsmanship achieve such a level? It was beyond their comprehension. They couldn't understand the power Kaguya Nami displayed. Whether it was the elusive trajectory of lightning or the terrifying, eerie swordsmanship, the three Uchiha's proud Sharingan were completely incomprehensible. This made them feel a sudden sense of humiliation, as if facing Kaguya Nami meant their Sharingan were no different from ordinary eyes. Hiding in the woods, Kakashi felt numb. Following the Flying Thunder God technique, now a terrifying swordsmanship had appeared. And in his life, these two techniques represented extraordinary significance, symbolizing two deceased individuals who had profoundly influenced him. The Flying Thunder God technique, the Golden Flash, was his teacher, Minato Namikaze, a man whose speed was unparalleled in the ninja world, a man whose face always wore a bright, sunny smile. Tsukumo Hatake, the White Fang of Konoha, was his father, a grim reaper who reaped lives on the battlefield with terrifying swordsmanship and a heart as cold as iron. At this moment, Kakashi vaguely saw those two opposing figures, and for a fleeting instant, they seemed to contradictorily and eerily merge into the silhouette of Kaguya Nami. Please read, vote, and give a reward. I'm begging you. Chapter 64. From now on, we've taken over this stage. Forest, night, severed limbs, a breathing blade, spotless clothes, and 6 trembling red eyes. The scene unfolded on the stage of the Death Forest. There were no clashes of dazzling ninjutsu, no high-speed chases, no dramatic twists and turns, and no earth-shattering comebacks. Only raging, invisible lightning and a blade reflecting breath. In the terror of the intertwined blade and electricity, the Crimson Sharingan reflected only a powerless paleness. The moment the blade was drawn, the curtain fell simultaneously. Standing between 3 Uchiha lying on the ground, Kaguya Nami mercifully spared their lives, leaving them with all 4 limbs intact. After all, the Uchiha and the pimple-faced were different. There was no narrow-minded personal grudge or revenge involved, just a simple exam competition. There was no need to make it so bloody and cruel. Kaguya Nami simply followed a normal exam procedure, breaking a few of their ribs and sending them to a good night's sleep. The Uchiha clan's days are numbered. Who would still be frantically preparing for the promotion exams before they die? Wouldn't it be better to catch up on sleep while they still have the chance? As for the championship, it's predetermined? Sorry, the stage that Konoha painstakingly built, named Forest of Death, has been tacitly taken over by Hisoka and Kaguya Nami. Actually, Hisoka doesn't want you to come looking for trouble with me, and that's the truth, because if you come looking for me, it means his number of toys will be reduced. Kaguya Nami whispered to the unconscious Uchiha, then kindly laid the 3 severely unconscious Uchiha in a row on the ground, quickly weaving grass leaves into blankets and gently covering them to prevent them from catching a cold. After helping her competitors with their final preparations, Kaguya Nami leisurely led Hanafuji Satoru and Onizumi towards the central tower. Gentle kindness and cold ruthlessness, huh? What a contradictory character. Perhaps the ninja world has always lacked people like him. Kakashi Hatake moved his headband back over his eyes, his heart filled with mixed emotions. If those two people's personalities could have blended a little, perhaps some tragedies wouldn't have happened. He glanced coldly at the silent, desolate scene in the forest. The three with pimple-like faces sat on the ground, their faces ashen. This Chunin exam was no longer relevant to them, no, perhaps their ninja careers had come to an end here. In fact, for them, this might not be such a bad thing. Kakashi really wanted to catch up with Kaguya Nami and ask her what the correct answer to that question was. If he were in her shoes, how would he answer to gain forgiveness and avoid having his hand severed? Did that question really have a correct answer? Never mind, I'll ask her another time. Kakashi didn't continue following Kaguya Nami. The strength she had displayed was beyond even his comprehension. What danger could this Chunin exam pose to him? Maybe there really is one, that madman who attacked the examiner, Hisoka, who's from the same village as Kaguya. This Chunin exams is probably going to become a showcase for Kusaga Cure. Sigh, the third Hokage is going to have a headache now. Kakashi's thoughts drifted. He was being too optimistic. The walkie-talkie vibrated wildly. Kakashi pulled it out of his pocket, held it to his ear, and the muscles around his nose seemed to stop trembling instantly. His pupils visibly contracted to pinpoints in shock. He hung up the walkie-talkie and frantically rushed towards the central tower, not even bothering to conceal himself, overtaking the leisurely Kaguya and her two companions from the side. Watching Kakashi dash past, Kaguya Nami sniffed the air, a subtle smile playing on her lips. I smell it, the air is filled with the scent of blood. Hanafuji Satoru and Onizumi grinned simultaneously, revealing their gleaming white teeth. The parasites were supposed to feed on humans, but Kaguya Nami found that too gruesome and forcibly changed their diet. They now fed on hearts and blood. This made them exceptionally sensitive to the concentration and location of blood in the air. To the left, about 1,300 meters ahead, there are many fresh corpses, Hanafuji Satoru said, pointing in that direction. The blood smells unusually fragrant. They experienced tremendous emotional turmoil before their deaths. Their other master seemed to have enjoyed the hunt immensely. Onizumi licked her lips. Control your expressions, everyone. Don't look like you're consumed by malice at the sight of blood. Since you're wearing the mask of human, you should at least pretend to be kind. Kaguya Nami reminded them helplessly. She really couldn't understand why none of her subordinates could smile as warmly and sunnily as she did. Was that so difficult? It seemed that the next person to be unsealed would definitely need to be a squad leader with a righteous and gentle appearance to improve and transform the overall image of her team. Master, why go through all this trouble to be kind to everyone? Hanafuji Satoru and Onizumi asked in unison. In the parasitic beast's mind, humans belonged to the lower ranks of the food chain. Why should I show mercy to my food? This was a soul-searching question. Did doing this make the food more tender and juicy? Eating simply to fill your stomach is incredibly boring. Food needs cooking and preparation to become truly delicious, and even a little effort is worthwhile. Kaguya Nami's fingernails sliced across her cheek, creating a gruesome gash. I wear this mask so that one day I can tear it off myself. The expressions on the faces of those watching will be priceless. As she spoke, the spilled black blood seeped back into her flesh, revealing her pristine face once more. The wind listened silently, the shadows of the surrounding trees like ghostly figures watching from the shadows. Meanwhile, upon receiving notification of Kaguya Nami's arrival, Hisoka exhaled a pink bubble, a seductive and alluring smile spreading across his face. The final scene in the Forest of Death, action. Blood mingled with mud, staining the soles of shoes. Threads of blood hung from the corpses, like shattered dolls entangled in spiderwebs, haphazardly dangling from the branches. Scattered scrolls lay strewn across the blood-soaked ground beneath the tree, like carelessly discarded trash, ignored by all. 3 Konoha, back to back, lay at the base of the tree, their bodies covered in blood, their faces filled with despair as they looked up at the examiner, Hisoka atop the trunk. Hisoka stood atop the trunk, half his face splattered with blood, making his tear-streaked makeup appear even more alluring and morbid, radiating a chilling aura of danger. Playing cards appeared and disappeared between his fingers, the swishing sound of cards rubbing against the air oppressively suffocating. The true examiners, meanwhile, were hidden in the shadows around the forest, their faces grim and furious beneath animal print masks. This was the first time in all these years that they had ever seen a candidate dare to play the examiner's game during the exam, single-handedly changing the rules of the entire exam. What exactly happened? Kakashi arrived, glanced around at the assembled Anbu members, and asked in a deep voice. All 6 teams from the village participating in the Chunin exams were wiped out. Even collecting all the scrolls was useless. Not a single team could pass the checkpoint set by Hisoka. Checkpoints? What do you mean? Hisoka, that Jinan from Kusagakure, is acting as the examiner. He sets questions for each team that collects the scrolls and wants to reach the central tower. Anyone who answers incorrectly or whose performance displeases him is deemed unqualified and disqualified from the exam. Sets questions. Kakashi immediately thought of Kaguya Nami's question and asked with a strange expression, what kind of questions were they? They were probably about dissecting yourself in the face of death, recognizing the darkest side of your heart. Anyway, they were all strange and cruel questions. The Anbu member who was asked pondered for a long time, seemingly very reluctant to recall those questions. Those questions aren't important. The point is, these Konoha Jinan are definitely not on their right minds. The Anbu didn't directly answer Kakashi's question, so Kakashi had to suppress his intense curiosity for the time being and asked, how are disqualified candidates disqualified? Disqualification means death or fainting. Hisoka will draw playing cards, and based on the card's rank and suit, decide whether to kill or knock out the candidate. Drawing playing cards? Is it that easy? Yes, the strangest thing is that most candidates from other villages draw cards that result in fainting, but our Konoha Jinan candidates always draw cards representing death. Excluding your Uchiha group, all the remaining Konoha candidates are dead here. Oh, the only survivor is Hyuga Madara from the first group, who was spared by Hisoka. The only remaining Konoha civilian group is these 3, and judging by the situation, they're not going to last much longer either. The simple dialogue, masking a brutal and bloody reality, sent chills down Kakashi's spine. Especially when he saw the dolls hanging from the trees, Kakashi could vividly experience the madness and horror depicted in the language. Hisoka treats this exam like a game, the examinees like toys. This guy is a complete madman. Kakashi coldly surveyed the scene. Inwardly, he wondered how it was possible that all the Konoha ninjas had drawn death cards. Was it a coincidence, or was this madman deliberately targeting Konoha? Unfortunately, these were just speculations. There was no evidence. Furthermore, Hisoka's actions didn't violate the exam rules, and they couldn't intervene. They could only watch as Hisoka slaughtered Konoha's teams like pigs and dogs. Thinking about it, the luckiest team in Konoha was actually the Uchiha group that Kaguya Nami had eliminated. A gust of cold wind swept by, causing the dolls hanging from the trees to swing back and forth, scattering fallen leaves. A few drops of viscous blood bounced off the trembling strings, swirling in the wind. The game is coming to an end. So today, the last question will be answered by you lucky ones. Hisoka stretched. The moonlight filtering through the leaves onto his crimson face, making his smile look sinister and eerie. What do you think is the difference between you and these hanging dolls? Hisoka flicked his finger, and a playing card sprang from between his fingers, which he casually caught and flipped face up. Hey, the 4 of diamonds. The 3 faces below turned deathly pale. The first 2 groups of examinees who drew the 4 of diamonds were now hanging from the tree, one of them with all his joints broken, staring at them with a pair of bulging, grotesque dead fish eyes. You answer first. Hisoka casually glanced at one of them, flicked his finger, and the latter's body moved uncontrollably, the kunai in his hand slowly but firmly pressing against his throat. The countdown to answering had begun. A wrong answer or a slow one would result in his own throat being slit open. Help me. The entangled person struggled frantically, but the 2 teammates beside him didn't dare to step forward, instead scattering back as if avoiding a plague. The dead people had already shown them the rules of this test. If you tried to save a teammate, Hisoka would consider it an attempt to answer first, and the question originally directed at him would fall on the head of the person who answered first, along with the threads, which would also be transferred to him. The bloody truth, saving someone is equivalent to suicide. Although even if they did nothing, and their teammate died after answering incorrectly, they would likely also die, but even if they could lie for 1 more second, wasn't that the most truthful and despicable answer of human nature? Konoha, nurtured by the will of fire, seems no different from us small ninja villages. How boring. I originally thought I could find some delicious fruit in Konoha. Hisoka's eyes were indifferent, seemingly speaking to the examinees below, yet also seemingly mocking countless eyes in the shadows. Disappointment, mockery? Calmness, cruelty? Everyone who heard these words could feel the madness seeping into his bones, and the naked, chilling malice towards Konoha. For a moment, all the out-of-town examinees participating in this year's Chunin exams were thankful for the first time in their lives that they weren't wearing Konoha's headband. The unexpected situation in the Forest of Death was reported to the Hokage by the Anbu immediately. The Chunin exams were originally planned as a platform for Konoha to boast of its strength, but now, before the preliminary rounds were even over, Konoha's examinees were about to be completely wiped out. If word got out, where would Konoha's face be? Hisoka's actions in Kusagakure had undoubtedly torn Konoha's face to the ground and trampled it to pieces. How dare a small village like Kusagakure do such a thing? Weren't they afraid of Konoha's retaliation afterward? Hiruzen Sarutobi stared at the scene in the crystal ball with a gloomy expression. Hisoka was clearly on his list, but retaliation couldn't happen now, not in front of everyone. Konoha needed to show the magnanimity of a great nation. Kusagakure dares to provoke Konoha like this, either because they have a major interest to scheme for, or because they have a hatred they have to vent. Hiruzen Sarutobi took a deep drag on his pipe, his eyes fixed on Danzo Shimura, who had returned, and said, word by word, Danzo, don't tell me you don't know anything. Danzo Shimura fell silent. It was always like this. As soon as something was amiss, suspicion would point to him, and what was even more infuriating was that this suspicion was always correct. He seems like a madman. Madmen act without logic, Shimura Danzo argued. He wasn't going to take the blame for killing almost all the village's Jinan candidates. Madmen may act illogically, but they also have likes and dislikes. I can see he's targeting Konoha. Hiruzen Sarutobi braced his hands on the table, ash trembling as it fell from his pipe onto the gleaming book, The Will of Fire, on the corner of the desk. Tell me the truth, it's just the two of us here. The oppressive atmosphere was deathly oppressive. After a long pause, Shimura Danzo suddenly grinned. I didn't expect the Grass Ninja Village to be so angry, but this only further confirms the value of the Box of Bliss. Shimura Danzo lowered his voice and revealed everything to Sarutobi Hiruzen. I thought about it and decided not to change it too much, realizing that changing one thing would have far-reaching consequences, affecting the later outline and plot. Kaguya Nami's current character design is setting up plot holes for later developments. After all, if everyone is a villain attacking Konoha, I'm afraid readers who like the original work won't be able to accept it. I've summarized it, and the main problem is that I feel this part of the story is progressing too slowly. So I'll speed things up a bit, and as a token of my sincerity, I'll present a combined chapter, and I'll add another chapter this afternoon. Please vote and follow. You must follow, follow. These 2 weeks are the most crucial time for the book's performance. Please follow. QQ Group 798,230,019. Chapter 65 The Prelude to the Extermination of the Clan. Inside the tightly closed house, two wrinkled old men whispered amongst themselves, their sinister laughter escaping from time to time. I've confirmed it. The opening of the Box of Bliss is inextricably linked to the Uchiha clan, and I strongly suspect that the Grass Village and the Uchiha are still secretly in contact. Shimura Danzo's eyes held undisguised murderous intent. All the Konoha examinees in the Forest of Death were wiped out, but one group survived unscathed. Don't you think there's something fishy going on? That group was the Uchiha trio that, Kaguya Nami, had mercifully spared. It was perfectly understandable that Shimura Danzo suspected a shady deal behind this leniency. At that moment, the three unconscious Uchiha had been carried out of the Forest of Death and placed in separate wards, where medical ninjas skilled in interrogation were conducting full-body examinations. Isn't Root keeping a close eye on Kusagakure? Have they had any secret contact with the Uchiha? Hiruzen Sarutobi exhaled smoke rings, his face shrouded in smoke, his cloudy eyes unfathomable. Their leader has been staying in his room the whole time, hardly ever leaving. Root has also been monitoring the movements of those Jinan. None of them have had any contact with the Uchiha. It seems like they really are just here to participate in the Chunin exams. Danzo Shimura sneered. Contact? Not surprising. The absence of contact is what's truly worrying. The room was eerily quiet, save for the sound of Hiruzen Sarutobi puffing on his cigarette. A chilling killing intent seemed to be resurfacing in the dissipating smoke. A knock sounded on the door. A member of Root entered, carrying a blood-soaked human skin, which he handed to Danzo Shimura before quickly retreating. The craftsmanship is exquisite. It's incredibly thin and adhered to the back of one of the Uchiha's necks, perfectly matching the texture of the surrounding skin, as if it were truly grown on his body. Almost, even the root members wouldn't have noticed. Shimura Danzo flipped open the back of the human skin, revealing a line of small, crookedly printed words, "The box is en route. In 3 days, the gatekeeper and the sacrifice will begin." Danzo glanced at it, then casually tossed the mask open, slamming it onto the table, bringing it into Hiruzen Sarutobi's view. The writing, though brief and vague, was enough to reveal much. First, the Grass Ninja Village and the Uchiha clan were indeed in secret contact. Second, the Root clan's operation had already been exposed, and the Grass Ninja Village knew for certain that the Box of Bliss was hidden within Root. It was only a matter of time before the Uchiha clan found out. Finally, 3 days was the time, and the sacrifice to be initiated likely referred to the method of opening the Box of Bliss. Connecting this to known intelligence, this can be interpreted as, 3 days later, the Grass Ninja Village and the Uchiha clan would join forces to enter Root, seize the Box of Bliss, and find a way to open it to fulfill their wishes. The key words are the gatekeeper and the sacrifice. These should be the crucial conditions for opening the box. Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura exchanged a glance, intuitively relating these two conditions to the Grass Ninja Village and the Uchiha clan respectively. The one who offered the sacrifice must be the Uchiha, possibly referring to the Uchiha's corpse. Shimura Danzo never hesitated to consider the darkest aspects of human nature. In his understanding, sacrifice was equivalent to the dead. The Uchiha were willing to sacrifice the lives of several clansmen to open the box, so this understanding was flawless. Then, the gatekeeper naturally refers to the Kusagakure side, the specific person who can open the box, and it's among this group. Hiruzen Sarutobi silently removed his pipe from his mouth, his heart far from the calm he appeared to be. The Uchiha and Kusagakure were conspiring together, such a significant matter, and he hadn't even suspected it beforehand. What were his spies planted among the Uchiha doing? Oh, maintaining order during the Chunin exams. If the Uchiha and Kusagakure succeed in their alliance, what do you think they'll wish for? Shimura Danzo gritted his teeth and snarled, "Hiruzen, give up your last shred of hope for the Uchiha. For the sake of the village's stability, it's time to remove this cancer, a remnant since the village's founding, from Konoha." Hiruzen Sarutobi's brows furrowed. He looked indifferently out the window at the Hokage rock statue, surrounded by moonlight and darkness, and sighed, 3 days from now, it's the stage for the Chunin exams. All eyes are on Konoha. There's no place for Konoha on that stage anymore. Shimura Danzo provoked Hiruzen Sarutobi with his words. On the stage of the Chunin exams held by Konoha, the Konoha ninja were the first to exit the stage. This is an unprecedented disgrace for Konoha. Danzo, perhaps you are right this time. The village has reached a point where it must make changes. Hiruzen Sarutobi's brows gradually relaxed, his face showing a hint of sorrow and desolation. He pinched his pipe and placed it upside down on the human skin. A few embers from the rekindled pipe ignited the skin, illuminating his root-like face in the firelight. Where leaves dance, fire also burns eternally. Who stuck this human skin onto the Uchiha? Hiruzen Sarutobi asked calmly. A Jinan from Kusagakure, Kaguya Nami, that's her name. Danzo Shimura grinned. You have achieved the achievement, the prelude to the Uchiha clan's demise, the prelude to the Uchiha clan's demise. The Uchiha, kept in the dark and completely unaware, were not aware that a seemingly benevolent person had already secretly orchestrated one scheme after another, threading together all the blame to implicate them. You accelerated the Uchiha's demise. P.S. You even schemed against a group of people destined to die, and in the end, Danzo still took the fall. Well done. Gained 3,900 achievement points. This achievement was jointly completed by Hisoka and Kaguya Nami, and was calculated with a 1.3x multiplier on top of the 3,000 points. In the Forest of Death, Hisoka watched the subtitles scroll across his retina, a pleased smile playing on his lips. His voice, hoarse and magnetic, rang out, "Still haven't figured out the answer?" His arm, chafed from struggling, was riddled with bloody welts from the threads. The Konoha ninja stared wide-eyed in despair at the dolls, hanging from the trees, their eyes glazed with unseeing rage. He truly didn't know how to answer the question posed by custom. What difference was there between me and those hanging dolls? How did I know I was about to become one of them? The difference is, I want to live. They're dead. I don't want to become them. A sob, tears streaming down his face, echoed in the night. Yes. You don't want to become them, but what can you do? Your answer doesn't satisfy me. Hisoka raised an eyebrow, his little finger snapping back sharply. The dagger slowly sliced through the skin of the neck from left to right, blood gushing out eagerly. Suddenly, a flash of electricity appeared, the blinding light tearing through the night. The sound of swirling water roared in, a chilling light forming a circle, and with a series of crisp, snapping sounds, the dripping bloodlines broke one by one. Water breathing, second form, water wheel. I'll answer that question for him. A clear, cold voice rang out as Kaguya Nami appeared in human form, her clear black and white eyes meeting Hisoka's cold, mocking gaze. Let the performance begin. Hisoka and Kaguya Nami responded to themselves simultaneously. P.S. This is the third update today. Are you satisfied? Please keep reading, everyone. Thank you for your support and encouragement. I will continue writing at the established pace. I hope everyone will continue reading. These next 2 weeks are crucial for this book's recommendation period. Whether it reaches the top 3 in popularity depends on your continued reading. Due to word count limitations during the new book launch period, I really can't update frequently. I apologize. I hope everyone will be patient and read on. If the sales are decent after release, I'll speed up the update sobs finally. Thank you to reader 1377962097924120576 for today's 11,700-point donation. Thank you for your encouragement and recognition of this book. Chapter 66, A Person Who Is Neither Good Nor Evil? A light ripped through the darkness, a deep blue like water, with wisps of electricity crackling and scorching the air. A swirling blade cleaved down, and the stage of the Death Forest was instantly ignited by a cold, clear voice. The air rippled like water, like a wildly spinning water wheel suddenly appearing from the darkness. The splashing sound of the water flowing could even be heard. It was a blade. The blade was breathing. Severed threads rained down, the blade rising diagonally from below, aimed straight for Hisoka's cheek. Hisoka tilted his head, flicking his finger, and a playing card flew out concealed, spinning diagonally before hurtling towards Kaguya Nami's temple. The card struck her temple, sparking, a few strands of hair neatly breaking off and falling past her cheek. Kaguya Nami ignored it, her blade swirling like a guillotine, pressing down towards Hisoka's throat. Hey, that's not a very friendly greeting. Hisoka's expression was a half-smile, his face, half-stained with blood and tear-streaked makeup, looked incredibly sinister. He suddenly spread his 5 fingers and grabbed down fiercely at the blade. Blood spurted out, skin and flesh peeled away like silk, revealing a grotesque white bone claw, yet it gripped the blade like an iron clamp. You're two-faced, Hisoka, you clearly love this kind of greeting the most. Kaguya smiled, loosening her grip on the sword, her wrist and arm whipping back like a whip, aiming for Hisoka's cheek. Hisoka laughed loudly, lunging forward, pushing off the ground and raising his leg, his foot like a venomous snake's head, kicking Kaguya hard in the chin. Kaguya's whip-like hand was slightly deflected, striking Hisoka's shoulder joint instead. Crack! Crack! Kaguya Nami was kicked 5 meters away, a string of blood spurting from her mouth, staining her delicate and clean face with a dark red, instantly giving her a chillingly ruthless look. Hisoka's body tilted sideways and headed towards the ground, but abruptly stopped a foot off the ground, as if pulled back to its original position by a rubber band, his shoulder hanging strangely out of shape. It looked like those dolls, hanging upside down from trees. The next instant, Hisoka casually pried his shoulder back into place, and at the same time, he raised his hand, revealing gaps in his 5 fingers, from which bone bullets shot out one after another. Kaguya Nami raised her hand and smashed it against her dislocated jaw, causing her jaw joint to close, blood seeping from between her teeth, but she only smiled faintly, her body transforming into arcs of electricity as she charged towards Hisoka amidst the rain of bone bullets. The air crackled and popped as 2 figures moved swiftly, becoming arcs of electricity in afterimages. The bark of the surrounding trees was scorched by the electric arcs and riddled with skewer-like holes by the ejected bones. The 2 figures moved elusively among the hanging dolls, like performing a bizarre dance on a terrifying stage. Interspersed with this were the sounds of conversation, strangely calm, devoid of any tense confrontation or labored breathing, as if they were simply exchanging casual greetings. Nami wants to save them, but that's not good. They're my toys. Even if I don't like them, I can't just let others take them. You've already ruined so many toys, haven't you gotten tired of them yet? Hisoka's question is one that ordinary people can't answer. Nami, are you jealous? You're different from them. They're just toys for me to pass the time. You're the delicious fruit I'm truly waiting for. Then aren't you curious about my answer? The voices echoed in the wind, indistinguishable between good and evil, more like the ramblings of two madmen. The rescued Konoha ninja felt his body regain control, but he collapsed to the ground, exhausted, his eyes fixed blankly on the dolls, swaying in the wind on the trees. Were they regretting not being one of them? He himself didn't understand why such a bizarre, chilling thought had suddenly popped into his head. The other two Konoha genin were equally stunned, staring dumbfounded at the figure who had drawn his sword against Hisoka. It was none other than Kaguya Nami, the one all the examinees considered a lamb. He was this strong? Their eyes couldn't keep up with his speed, and he didn't even dodge Hisoka's attacks, retaliating with an even more ferocious and ruthless style. He had such an innocent face, yet deep down he was just as ruthless as Hisoka. As for the words drifting through the air, they were automatically filtered out of their minds, just like Hisoka's questions. This was a conversation their brains couldn't comprehend. Anyone who could keep up with Hisoka's thinking was probably another kind of madman. Has Kaguya Nami become intangible as arcs of electricity? What kind of ninjutsu is that? Kakashi, quickly use your Sharingan to take a look. Hidden in the shadows, the Anbu stared speechlessly at the performance of the two Kusage Kyojinan. Kakashi lifted his eye patch, not to peek into the secrets of the electric arcs, but simply to keep up with the speed of the two Jinan. This speed, Jinan? Are all Jinan from other villages this terrifying these days? Too fast, I can't see it. Those bone bullets are Shikatsu Myaku, right? Such bizarre swordsmanship, able to create ripples in water out of thin air. Has any of you heard of this kind of swordsmanship? From the start of the battle, the expressions beneath the masks of the Anbu observers gradually froze into astonishment. Their mouths gaped open, their pupils constantly contracting and trembling. They spoke in a seemingly relaxed manner, but in reality, they were trying to calm their inner shock and a trace of inexplicable fear. If they were to replace either of these two Jinan in the battle before them, the scene would be too unimaginable. The thought of several Anbu members as if they were also candidates participating in this exam flashed through their minds, and then they all shuddered. They're not going all out. Uchiha Itachi, who appeared silently, perched on a tree branch, his jet black Magatama like ink. He coldly observed the scene in the distance and said calmly, "Yes, their breathing is too steady, without the slightest fluctuation. They're just testing each other." Kakashi nodded in response. "No, not testing, more like playing." Uchiha Itachi corrected. "Playing?" Kakashi was taken aback, his face showing obvious disbelief. If Hisoka was a madman who treated killing as a game, he would believe it, but Kaguya Nami could never be someone who enjoyed fighting. She clearly rushed in to save people. Kakashi didn't argue with Uchiha Itachi. In his eyes, everyone in the Uchiha clan, except for Obito, that dead idiot, was more or less tainted by narrow-mindedness, extremism, and selfishness, and all had a habit of assuming the worst of people. They even mercifully let your Uchiha group of examinees go. There's no comparison. Kakashi thought to himself. Itachi Uchiha gave Kakashi a meaningful look but said nothing more. The two simultaneously turned their attention back to the arena. Kaguya Nami and Hisoka had stopped and were standing among the swaying dolls. The strangely shaped dolls, hanging upside down, each with a ferocious and terrifying face, stared at the two, seemingly awaiting Kaguya Nami's answer. "What's the difference between us and puppets?" Kaguya Nami wiped the blood from her face, revealing her pale, clean countenance. Facing the dead faces, she sighed, "Actually, there's no difference. Like them, we're laughable, insane puppets, dancing on a stage built by fate, our bodies also densely bound with invisible threads. The only difference is that they can rest now, while we continue our performance." A brilliant answer. Hisoka clapped, gracefully spinning in place before appearing before the three Konoha ninja. He lightly brushed his hand across their chests, breaking several of their ribs, ensuring the last group of Konoha examinees would also be eliminated from the Chunin exams. Kaguya Nami, of course, didn't try to help. She was focused on the notification text flashing before her eyes. "You have eliminated all of Konoha's examinees, item 2 of the death incident 2. The Hokage and Konoha are also involved in condoning and protecting criminals, and are equally inextricably linked. Taking advantage of the Chunin exams, let's teach Konoha a lesson. For each Konoha team eliminated during the exams, 400 achievement points will be awarded, an additional 2,000 points will be awarded for the complete elimination of all Konoha teams, 7-7. Achievement reward points will be settled and sent together with item 1 after the Chunin exams. Done. Hisoka said to himself. Good job. Kaguya Nami said to herself. Nami, would you mind answering an additional question? Actually, I've always been curious about what kind of person I am in your heart, good or evil? Hisoka asked with a smile. Did this question even need asking? In the distance, Hanafuji Sadara and Oni no Kami, their faces expressionless and barely suppressing their thirst for blood, exchanged silent glances. According to the human definition of language, shouldn't this situation be called a self-questioning and self-answering, or talking to oneself? Simultaneously, a hidden incision appeared in the palms of both their hands, revealing a darting eyeball. Deep within the pupil, a thin layer of bacteria connected to nerve fibers. This was a subtle modification to Mayuri Kuratsuchi's parasites, allowing them to transmit what they saw back to Mayuri's small mirror via monitoring bacteria. As a devoted fan of the chairman, Mayuri was already disappointed at not being able to join the exam crowd and witness the chairman's performance up close. He couldn't allow himself to miss the live broadcast, so he set his sights on Sadara Hanafuji and Onizuki. It was just a simple minimally invasive surgery, and the two parasites readily agreed. This was all internal cooperation within the organization, a mutual support among subordinates. Kaguya Nami always encouraged this, so for the past few days, Mayuri and Gin Ichimaru had indeed stayed indoors, watching the live stream in the mirror. They hadn't missed a single performance by Chairman Nami. Playing yourself, no matter how many times you see it, you can't help but feel a sense of absurdity. It's really interesting. Jin, tell me. What is it about President Nami that makes you so obsessed with performing? Mayuri Kuratsuchi asked Jin, sitting in her chair and staring at the mirror covered in fungal growth. Probably, Jin leaned against the wall, squinting, his voice chilling, that one day, when you tear off that mask of falsehood in public, you'll get that feeling of despairing amazement. Oh, that's interesting. Do you think Aizen Sosuke had the same idea back then? Mayuri Kuratsuchi deliberately brought up the most sensitive topic. Jin didn't answer. He watched intently as Mayuri Kuratsuchi gradually shaped a pair of glasses in his hands. This was a gift Mayuri Kuratsuchi had made for Kaguya Nami on a whim, black square frames, somewhat retro and rigid, looking strangely familiar. Jin suddenly felt an extremely ominous premonition welling up inside him. He didn't want to pay attention to Mayuri Kuratsuchi and fell into deep thought. The image in the mirror continued to play, good and evil? Which category does Hisoka belong to? Looking at the dolls, swinging on the tree, the answer seemed self-evident, at least in the eyes of most viewers. It was an indisputable answer. Hisoka, you are a different person, you can't be simply judged by good and evil. Kaguya Nami took back the hilt of the sword Hisoka handed her, sheathed it, and said seriously, because Hisoka, there is no boundary between good and evil in your heart. You see the whole world as a hunting ground, and in your eyes everyone else is prey or toys. Hunters kill prey, this is the law of nature, so Hisoka, when you hunt, there is no thought of good or evil in your mind. In other words, Hisoka, if you were hunted down by someone else, you wouldn't feel resentment. To you, it's just a pure food chain. Therefore, in my eyes, Hisoka, you are neither good nor evil, and you are also a unique person. Silence. Kaguya Nami's answer was unexpected. Her words were calm and even, and coupled with her delicate smile, they suddenly sent a chill down everyone's spine. Hypocrisy? True goodness? If Hisoka was neither good nor evil, could Kaguya Nami, who uttered this assessment, be simply judged by pure good and evil? Perhaps she was another person neither good nor evil. Hisoka saw the world as a hunting ground, a morbid madman. Then, what did Kaguya Nami see the world as? His thinking seems a bit off, or perhaps my understanding of good and evil is too shallow. Kakashi's pupils contracted slightly in the shadows. He subconsciously turned to look at Uchiha, only to find that the latter had vanished again without a trace. Hisoka let out an extremely twisted and excited laugh, stepping aside to make way for Kaguya Nami on the path to the central tower. A subtle smile played on Kaguya Nami's lips. As a director of suspense thrillers, he understood perfectly well that purely good or purely evil characters were too simplistic. Only those who were neither purely good nor purely evil could better navigate the constant shifts between descent into darkness and redemption. I'm a good person who's neither purely good nor purely evil. Even if I make mistakes that violate universal values in the future, it will be easier for me to be redeemed and forgiven. After all, What evil intentions could Kaguya Nami possibly have? Kaguya Nami walked step by step towards the central tower. The tower's walls were white, and light shone through the windows, while the path behind him was gradually swallowed up by the silent darkness of the night. Hisoka's neither pure nor evil, and Nami's neither pure nor evil good. It's all for the sake of her later descent into darkness, redemption, and repeated betrayals. Are you all satisfied? Please keep reading if you're satisfied, I'm begging you. This chapter burned countless brain cells. I'm even losing hair, crying. P.S. Thank you to the top-tier Chunibayao Yin Yang Master for the generous donation, and happy birthday to him yesterday. Chapter 67. I don't like people standing on my head. The last examinee to enter the Death Forest stage was the first to walk into the central tower. Do you think there was any behind-the-scenes manipulation? The organizers didn't know, they were just furious. A total of 8 groups of 22 examinees remained to pass the Death Forest preliminary rounds and enter the central tower, and not a single team was from Konoha. Apart from the 3 examinees from Tsunagakure, the rest were all ninjas from small, unremarkable villages. Some of them hadn't even done anything, they simply waited until Hisoka left, then quickly picked up a blood-stained scroll from under the pile of puppet trees, and then qualified and entered the central tower. They passed inexplicably. Thank you, Kusagakure. Thank you, Hisoka. Kusagakure might be the biggest winner of this year's Chunin exams. The chief examiner standing at the door had a band-aid on his face as gloomy as a block of charcoal. Looking at Kaguya, Nami, and Hisoka standing in the center of the arena, he felt his title of chief examiner had been insulted. A strange 10-meter radius around Hisoka and Kaguya was eerily empty. Not a single examinee dared to approach them. Hisoka, needless to say, had bloodstains on his face that had congealed and hadn't been wiped off yet. Just by looking at him, he resembled a venomous python ready to devour its prey at any moment. Kaguya, on the other hand, was impeccably clean. Her appearance was deceptive, but at this moment, no one would naively believe she was a harmless lamb. They certainly didn't agree with Kaguya's assessment of Hisoka. Hisoka was definitely a morbidly evil madman. Those neither good nor evil comments probably revealed more of Kaguya's own thoughts. She might also be a dangerous individual. After a brief half-hour rest, the examiner announced the rules for the supplementary round, a 2-to-1 elimination system. Only 10 examinees would be allowed to participate in the main competition 3 days later, vying for the official certification to become Chunin. The supplementary round began. The screen hanging above began rotating the examinees' names, randomly drawing lots to determine their opponents in the elimination rounds. Match 1, Kaguya Nami vs Hisoka. Konoha's hearts are really too narrow-minded. If this weren't rigged, Kaguya Nami would have ripped the examiner's head off and given it to Hisoka to kick around like a football. Hisoka glanced knowingly at the examiner announcing the results, who immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Everything's in the script. Yet, a completely unoriginal arrangement, but that just shows Konoha can't sit still anymore. It's time to add the final fuel to the fire. A silent dialogue secretly rippled through their minds. On the surface, Hisoka frowned, radiating a sinister aura. I hate being part of a script. Kaguya Nami's expression remained calm as she murmured, since we're on Konoha's territory, we should abide by Konoha's rules. In the end, it's Hisoka who went too far. Although she was speaking for Konoha, the underlying meaning of her words made Konoha feel uneasy. Fine, anyway, the Chunin exams don't seem to offer any other fruits that can attract me. I'll go find some fun elsewhere. Hisoka stretched elegantly, a bubble popping as he lightly exhaled, and smiled at the proctor. I concede and withdraw. Kaguya Nami politely nodded in gratitude to Hisoka. The examiner, expressionless, announced Kaguya Nami's victory and advancement. At that moment, Hanafuji Sadara and Onizuka also stepped forward, announcing their forfeit of the match, and followed Hisoka out of the central tower. Thus, of the 4 Konoha Jonin who had passed the preliminary rounds, only one remained. Kaguya Nami retreated to the edge of the arena, leaning against the wall, listlessly watching the remaining supplementary matches, her mind already wandering elsewhere. In her eyes, this year's Chunin exams had come to a perfect end with the elimination of all Konoha examinees. The next part of the story should now shift to the carefully crafted narrative she had created. The box of Elysium has been delivered to Root, the trigger for the night of the massacre has been set, the legends and clues are all laid out on the Hokage's desk, Now Hisoka will deliver the match to light the trigger. Before Kaguya's eyes, she could almost see the raging black smoke, the grotesque phantom descending, and from the open box amidst the blood-soaked corpses, that terrifying yet alluring figure stepping out of the box and walking towards the world. To recreate the beautiful scene envisioned in her mind and reality, presenting it to the audience like a grand, immersive movie, that sense of accomplishment, just thinking about it filled Kaguya with excitement. Directing a world, what could be more worthwhile for Kaguya to dedicate her life to? The sky grew darker. The dim street lights on the lampposts flickered, casting indistinct shadows on the ground. Hisoka, hands in his pockets, swayed with a sexy, elegant cat-like gait, humming a cheerful tune in the darkness, occasionally blowing bubbles. Hanafuji and Oni-san followed silently behind, their four eyes darting around with a dangerous glint. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the lamppost, wearing a mask. Then, silently, figures appeared on the rooftops and eaves of both sides of the street, surrounding the three of them. Hisoka, we hope you'll come with us. The first masked man on the lamppost looked down at Hisoka, his voice hoarse and cold behind the mask. Oh? Who are you? Why should I go with you? Hisoka tilted his head back, squinting, a faint smile playing on his lips as he asked. The Hokage has something to ask you. Please come with us for a cup of tea. The reply brooked no refusal. So the root of Konoha likes to use the Hokage's name to do things now? Interesting. Looks like I have no choice but to go. Hisoka finished speaking, and the root figure on the lampost's eyes turned cold. Then, hearing Hisoka finish the sentence, the expression beneath the mask softened slightly. Then I'll go with you. Perfect timing, I was planning to visit Root anyway, but... Hisoka lowered his head to level his gaze. The next instant, the figure on the lamppost uncontrollably plummeted forward, as if glued by an invisible rubber band. In a flash, he was dragged in front of Hisoka, a sharp playing card pressed against his throat. I don't like people talking to me from above. His throat was slit, his neck split open, a head hanging limply from his neck, still attached by a layer of skin, blood spurting out. Now, I can go with you. Hisoka looked at the other Root members and accepted their invitation with a smile. Chapter 68 Hisoka betrays his own side? You have achieved the achievement, drinking tea. Drinking tea. Not everyone is qualified to be invited to drink tea by Shimura Danzo. Most people who have had tea with him are dead. P.S. His malice towards you is obvious, and you are also somewhat interested in his title of the Dark Lord of the Ninja World. I really hope you two will have another chance to drink tea. You have gained 1,000 achievement points. A line of text floated across his retina. Hisoka watched the corpse in front of him fall backward to the ground, thinking with a sense of pleasure, I almost forgot, Shimura Danzo is also a very good old leak. The decapitated corpse was wrapped in cloth and carried, and the blood splattered on the ground was wiped away. The Root members silently disposed of the traces at the scene. They surrounded Hisoka and the other two, leading the way quietly, not mentioning a word about the unpleasant incident that had just occurred, but their eyes behind their masks were unusually vigilant as they stared at Hisoka. Hisoka greatly admired the professionalism displayed by Root. They seemed like exceptionally competent tools. While Shimura Danzo might not excel at much else, he was certainly adept at brainwashing and training subordinates. Root. The cold, damp air reeked of blood. Upon entering, the accumulated, nauseating stench assaulted their nostrils. Hanafuji, Satoru and Kishou suppressed their gnashing excitement, their nostrils flaring as they greedily inhaled. Could I have a damp cloth to wipe my face? I'm eating the Hokage. After all, I need to maintain at least a clean appearance as a sign of courtesy. Hisoka said to a Root member. A cloth was quickly brought, and after wiping his face clean, feeling the refreshing glow of his skin, Hisoka followed the Root member towards the reception room. As they walked further in, the rooms were dark and cramped, their view blocked by cold iron doors, resembling chilling prison cells. Danzo Shimura's home decor was truly monotonous and lacking in aesthetic sense. Hisoka involuntarily conjured up dozens of bizarre scenarios in his mind, trying to make the place even more sinister, terrifying, and eerie, yet still exuding an elegant style. The corridor was heavily guarded, with masked Root members standing watch every few steps. Before a cold iron door, Hanafuji, Satoru and Oniso were stopped. Hisoka gave them a look, then pushed open the door and went inside alone. The cramped, dark room had no windows, only a square table. Opposite the table sat an old man with half his face wrapped in bandages, seemingly blending into the darkness. Only a single, cold, sinister eye visible as he stared at Hisoka. The infamous darkness of the ninja world, the king of the pot, Danzo Shimura. Hisoka felt he had long admired him, but this was the first time he had actually met him in person. There was only one chair under Shimura Danzo's bottom, which showed that the other party didn't seem to know much about hospitality. There was no tea on the table either. This old fox was really hard to like. How many achievement points did he get for killing Shimura Danzo? 5,000 points. Hisoka recalled for a moment, and then looking at Shimura Danzo's mummy-like dead face, he suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. He couldn't be angry about not having a chair. Giving a chair to an old man was a virtue. It didn't matter that there was no tea, young people didn't like bitter drinks. Hisoka put his hands behind his head. And a bright smile suddenly appeared on his face. Shimura Danzo was stunned. He hadn't seen anyone smile at him so sincerely in a very long time. "What are you laughing at?" Shimura Danzo asked with a dark face. "I suddenly thought of something happy," Hisoka licked his lips and replied with a smile. Danzo Shimura, recalling his subordinate's analysis of Hisoka, which highlighted him as a capricious madman, decided not to dwell on Hisoka's emotional fluctuations. "I heard from my subordinates that even if I didn't send someone to invite you, you would still come to me." "What does that mean?" Danzo Shimura cut to the chase. Inviting Hisoka went even more smoothly than expected, and Danzo Shimura was extremely curious about Hisoka's intentions. "My purpose in coming here, and your purpose in inviting me, I guess, is the same thing, about." Hisoka grinned, enunciating each word clearly, "the box of bliss." Danzo Shimura's pupils constricted. This way of speaking was completely unexpected. Wasn't a box of bliss the biggest secret of Kusaga Cure? Weren't you all conspiring with the Uchiha? Why are you telling me so bluntly? Although the box of bliss is now in my hands, and I've pretty much figured out the conspiracy between the Grass Ninja Village and the Uchiha, shouldn't the normal procedure be that you pretend to know nothing, then I present the evidence and expose you one by one, then you stubbornly refuse to talk, and finally, under my various methods of coercion and enticement, you're forced to reveal the whole story little by little? Why are you acting like I'm going to spill everything right off the bat? Don't be surprised, we know that the box of bliss was actually intercepted by Root. In fact, we've already conspired with the Uchiha to secretly infiltrate Root 3 days later, when they were at their weakest during the Chunin exams, to retrieve the box of bliss, and complete the sacrifice and opening ritual. Hisoka succinctly revealed his entire plan. Crisp, efficient, decisive, and a self-incriminating confession, Shimura Danzo was completely dumbfounded. "Why are you telling me all this?" Shimura Danzo pondered for a long time before digesting Hisoka's words. Instinctively, he felt something was amiss, but rationally, he judged that Hisoka's words basically matched their deductions based on known information. "Because, I'm bored." Hisoka spat out more bubble and then popped it with his fingertip. "The plan that Kusagakure and the Uchiha clan are plotting is too petty and too boring. The wish they want to make through the box of bliss is too mundane. I can't stand it." Shimura Danzo frowned. This reason was very much in line with the logic of a madman, and Hisoka's behavior in Konoha these past few days had exactly made him seem like a madman who did things entirely out of interest. So the conclusion was, Hisoka was telling the truth. What kind of wish do they want to make? Can the box of bliss really grant any wish? Shimura Danzo asked the question that mattered most to him. Of course not. Making a wish requires a sacrifice. The principle of equivalent exchange applies from the sacrifice to the fulfillment of the wish. That is, the higher the value of the sacrifice, the higher the level of the wish fulfilled. The sacrifice process needs a gatekeeper to preside over it, and the gatekeeper can only open the box of Elysium once in their lifetime. Hisoka spoke frankly and without reservation. The Grass Ninja Village spent over 100 years finally finding another gatekeeper. Such a precious opportunity, and they only intend to sacrifice a few Uchiha clan members to exchange for a few old fogies to regain their youth and peak power. It's utterly unimaginative, reeking of petty corruption from the inside out. This isn't the scene I want to see, it's too boring. Hisoka's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Old fogies on their deathbed should obediently step into their coffins. The new world doesn't need them to continue the old stories. The story should turn to a grander, more imaginative new page. A sickly, yearning light shone on Hisoka's face. Using the power of the box of Elysium, offering enough sacrifices, and making a wish powerful enough to change the world, that's much more interesting, isn't it? Hisoka seemed oblivious to the fact that when he mentioned that uninteresting wish, Danzo Shimura's breath caught in his throat for a moment, and his cold, sinister eyes blazed with intense heat. Suddenly, the iron door was pushed open from the outside. A white Hokage robe, a veiled hat, and a pair of cloudy, deep eyes looked in. Hiruzen Seireitei stood expressionless in the doorway, his heart beating slowly and steadily beneath his aged, thin body. This is a highly recommended read. Please, everyone, keep reading. Whether it gets featured on the Sanjiang website depends on how many readers read it these next few days. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, one of them is a madman. Highly recommended, please continue reading and support. It was the same cold, cramped room. Two more chairs had appeared beneath Hiruzen Seireitei and Hisoka, now sitting at the same square table. Hiruzen sat upright, his usual kind and gentle expression gone, replaced by a blank face, his deep, dark eyes concealing all emotion. His beloved pipe lay upside down on the table. He and Danzo Shimura exchanged a silent glance, their three cloudy old eyes then focusing on Hisoka. Hisoka, propped up on one leg of a chair, sat on the back, letting the chair wobble from side to side without falling over. He exuded a lazy, eerie aura, chewing gum as he met the light and shadow of Konoha's gaze. The fact that he dared to sit like this under their cold, intense gazes further blew their perception of Hisoka. Although it was just a small gesture, in the eyes of these two, it revealed Hisoka's audacious, reckless, and unruly personality, a true madman. The credibility of Hisoka's earlier words continued to rise in their minds. If what you said is true, then the Grass Village and the Uchiha clan are indeed too narrow-minded. The only chance to make a wish to the Box of Elysium shouldn't have been wasted like this. Can you tell us the whole story in more detail? Hiruzen Seireitei broke the silence and asked first. That's the whole story. Basically, the Grass Village and the Uchiha clan reached an agreement. The Grass Village would relinquish its right to make wishes, helping a few elderly members of the Uchiha clan regain their youth and peak fighting strength. Hisoka recounted the script he had already prepared to Hiruzen Seireitei and Danzo Shimura. What the Uchiha clan had to give up was the sacrifice of several young members, and after the wishes were made, the entire clan would defect from Konoha and move to the Grass Village. In this way, the Uchiha could break free from Konoha's shackles and become the most powerful clan in the Grass Village, while the Grass Village could also use the Uchiha's power to revive and become strong again. It sounded like a win-win situation, and Hisoka vividly recounted the whole story, almost convincing himself that it was true. Hiruzen Seireitei and Danzo Shimura remained outwardly calm, but inwardly they were sweating profusely. Hisoka's account of the entire affair was flawless, logically consistent, and combined with the clues they already possessed, it was essentially true. If the Grass Ninja Village and the Uchiha clan had truly succeeded, then Konoha's legacy would be half ruined by them. Those damned Grass Ninja Village harbored malicious intentions, daring to steal Konoha's resources. Those damned Uchiha clan were ungrateful wretches, even plotting to betray the village. Fortunately, among them was a madman like Hisoka. Hiruzen Seireitei and Danzo Shimura were already 80% convinced of Hisoka's words, and both of them had internally sentenced him to death. This kind of madman was too terrifying. The safest method was to first exploit him, extract his value, and then kill him to silence him. How could the Grass Ninja Village allow such a madman to participate in their plans and let him roam freely? They were utterly foolish. Who is the gatekeeper? Danzo Shimura asked anxiously. I can't tell you that now. What if you think I'm no longer useful and want to kill me? Hisoka covered his mouth and chuckled. You've definitely thought about that, haven't you? Let me give you a piece of advice. That's wrong. Hisoka pulled a playing card from between his fingers, revealing a red joker face up. If I'm the gatekeeper, and I die, no one will be able to open the Box of Elysium. What nonsense are you talking about? You came to Konoha to report. We're grateful to you. Why would we have any thoughts of harming you? Hiruzen Seireitei forced a wrinkled smile. Asking who the gatekeeper is to better understand the whole plan, so we can make more targeted and reasonable plans and arrangements. Besides, what do you want to get out of telling us all this? Get what? Hisoka licked his lips, the joker spinning between his fingers. I don't like plans that follow a set procedure. A future where everything is known is boring. Only with unknown variables does the next breath have meaning. Making a wish upon the box of bliss is a very interesting thing. You should have known the outcome so early. That's why I came and told you everything. Suddenly, the process became complicated and interesting. From that perspective, I've already gotten what I wanted, haven't I? Hiruzen Seireitei and Danzo Shimura fell silent. You're playing with fire. You might burn yourself to death. Danzo Shimura, having lived most of his life, had never seen such a madman before. Just for fun, he was willing to disregard his life. Could Hisoka be the gatekeeper? It didn't seem likely, but what if he was? The stronger his killing intent towards Hisoka became, the less he dared to act. Danzo Shimura dared not gamble, because Hisoka's behavior showed that he wasn't someone who could be coerced by death and fear. I will die someday, but not today. Hisoka stood up and stretched, exuding a venomous aura. I won't miss the opening of the box of Elysium. Let's go. Hisoka waved goodbye to the two old men, then seemed to remember something and reminded them, by the way, you could try sealing or moving the box of Elysium. I feel things would become more interesting that way. Originally, Shimura Danzo had this idea, but now it was like a bucket of cold water had been poured on him, and he dismissed the thought. How could the Grass Ninja Village be so sure that the box of Elysium was en route? Did they have a way of sensing the box of Elysium? If I moved the box of Elysium, would it provoke them and the Uchiha to do something even more risky? Hisoka's reminder made his mind involuntarily think of various conspiracy theories. He glanced at Hiruzen Seireitei, who suddenly gave him a wink, suppressing his desire to force Hisoka to stay en route. I have one last question, and I hope you can answer it before you leave. Does the sacrifice have to be an Uchiha? Why? Hiruzen Seireitei asked in a hoarse voice. The iron door scraped against the ground, making a teeth-grinding sound. Hisoka pulled the door open without looking back, leaving only a lazy voice drifting back in. To be precise, it's not the Uchiha, but the power contained in the Sharingan suits the box of Elysium's taste. Of course, the box of Elysium isn't that picky. If you're willing to change it to Jinchuriki, the effect might be even better. Bang. The door slammed shut. This week's top recommendation is probably the most important week for the early stages of this book. This week's results are especially important, so please, those who love this book, be sure to read it this week. Please, those who are waiting for a reading opportunity, please stop waiting. Those who have votes, please vote for me this week. Those who have extra money can support me with a reward. Please, I'm begging you. Chapter 70, Exit and Makeup Change. Having received no signal to stop them, the root members outside the gate led Hisoka away, with Hanafuji and Kishao following behind. Their eyes darted around, glancing at a masked root member guarding the iron gate, who silently turned and walked inside. Why did you stop me from keeping him? What if he goes out and starts spouting nonsense? Shimura Danzo frowned at Hiruzen Seireitei. What did you say? Tell the Grass Village and the Uchiha clan that Hisoka betrayed them. He's just a madman, not an idiot. And a madman driven by interest. What can we do to him if we forcibly keep him? Kill him now. Won't the Grass Village and the Uchiha clan outside notice? Hiruzen Seireitei had thought things through thoroughly. He confidently stated, don't worry, he's on our side now, at least until the box of Elysium is opened. We can completely trust him, he's a madman. Of course. The door opened, interrupting their conversation. A root member wearing a mask entered and reported, when Hisoka left just now, he subconsciously glanced at the location where the box of Elysium is placed. I suspect he knows the box of Elysium is hidden en route. For safety, should we move it? No need to move it. Send more people to guard it closely. Danzo Shimura gave the order. The root member acknowledged the order and withdrew. After the door closed shut again, Shimura Danzo coldly addressed Seireitei Hiruzen in a deep voice, not only the Uchiha Sharingan, but Hiruzen, the Jinchuriki too. Danzo, you're not allowed to even consider the Jinchuriki. Never even think about it. Seireitei Hiruzen interrupted Shimura Danzo. Then it can only be the Sharingan. Now that you've chosen, let's make our move. Shimura Danzo sneered. Do we need the Grass Village? Attacking the Grass Village first will alert the Uchiha and force them into a corner. If we're going to make a move, we can only do it first. Seireitei Hiruzen didn't finish his sentence, relighting his pipe and taking a deep drag. Danzo Shimura, used to his old partner's hypocrisy, understood his meaning and echoed, that's right, as long as we get all the Sharingan, Kusagakure will naturally have no choice but to cooperate with us. Don't rush things. I'll test Itachi's attitude again before making a decision. Also, protect Naruto Uzumaki well, don't allow anyone to contact him recently. Hiruzen Seireitei added anxiously. Okay. Danzo Shimura nodded in agreement. If you can persuade Itachi to take action himself, that would be ideal, preserving the Uchiha clan's reputation. Hiruzen, you've always been consistently kind to the Uchiha. Hiruzen Seireitei simply took a deep drag on his pipe, and the room fell silent. After a long while, a voice drifted out from the swirling smoke. That wish, what do you think? It was impossible to see or hear who was speaking. Meanwhile, the qualifying rounds ended, and Kaguya Nami emerged from the forest of death, walking alone in the night. As she walked, several shadows silently appeared behind her. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, dressed in a clown mask, and Gin Ichimaru, disguised with a stoic expression, appeared beside her. The three figures walked side by side down the street, a desolate and eerie wind blowing past, causing the leaves on either side to rustle and fall. President's performance in the Forest of Death was wonderful. This is a gift I made for you. I hope you like it, Mayuri Kuratsuchi said, pulling out a pair of black-rimmed glasses as a gift for Kaguya Nami's success in the Chunin exams preliminaries. Thank you, I really like these glasses. Kaguya Nami smiled and accepted the glasses, but instead of putting them on directly, she looked at Gin Ichimaru and asked, do you think these glasses suit me? They suit your style perfectly. Gin Ichimaru replied with a smile. You seem a bit insincere. Kaguya Nami put her glasses back in her pocket, saying meaningfully, don't worry, I'll find a more suitable owner for these glasses. Ichimaru-jin's sphincter tightened, and he looked at Kaguya Nami suspiciously, hesitating to speak. Don't get too excited, and don't misunderstand me. Kaguya Nami narrowed her eyes, offering no further explanation, her mood unusually cheerful. Ichimaru-jin swallowed hard, those words were terrifying, how could he not overthink it? President, where should we go now? Kuratsuchi Mayuri interjected. It's almost time for the main show to begin, we should exit and change our costumes. Kaguya Nami's lips curled into a smile, are the tails still following us? They've been following us from a distance, President, should we get rid of them? Kuratsuchi Mayuri's eyes lit up, asking eagerly. No need, we want them to follow and watch. Kaguya Nami winked playfully. A corner of his retina was connected to the reconnaissance satellite planted in the Uchiha clan's territory, and the footage it was gleaning pleased him. So, under the cover of night, the three of them, under the distant surveillance of Root, suddenly quickened their pace, seemingly trying to shake off Tail. The distance between them increased rapidly, yet they maintained a perfect distance, allowing Tail to see their gradually blurring silhouettes. Then, near a certain point close to the Uchiha clan's territory, they vanished seamlessly from Tail's sight. Lost them. Several Root members emerged anxiously from the darkness, their faces grim as they surveyed the empty streets and houses. The direction and location they disappeared from were very close to the Uchiha clan's territory. They must have entered the Uchiha clan's territory. You two stay here and keep watch until they come out. I'll report back to Root. One Root member said, while the remaining two nodded and dispersed into the shadows, cautiously monitoring the streets where the Uchiha entered and exited. The three figures, vanished from Root's sight, stood in a hidden corner not far behind the two Root members who were monitoring them. Is this enough? Mayuri Kuratsuchi asked suspiciously. Don't we really need to go in and say hello to the Uchiha? This is enough. There's no need to waste emotions on a bunch of dead people. Besides, someone will invite me in to watch the show soon, Kaguya Nami said with a smile. Understood. For the next 2 days, we'll remain invisible. Gin Ichimaru understood Kaguya Nami's meaning. Excellent. Kaguya Nami tore off her fake mask, her face twisting and deforming from the bone, then disappearing silently and eerily into the darkness, vanishing from Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi's sight. In the Shinigami's perception, the chairman was standing right in front of them, but to the naked eye, there was no one there. Kaguya Nami had left. Gin Ichimaru and Mayuri Kuratsuchi exchanged a silent glance and also vanished from their spots. With the squad leader's abilities, if they didn't need to carry Akajimori as a burden, they could hide in Konoha for as long as they wanted without being discovered. Wait a minute, it seems they've been inadvertently forgetting something. In a certain room, Akajimori stared blankly at the empty space, his eyes filled with innocent confusion. Where are they? Where did they all go? Without me. Parasite number 1. Thanks to NIKJ and D-Side for the 1,500 points, and thanks to Genius Unstoppable, Lonely Girl, Shangwen Zhu, by Ji Ling Long, I Want a Cool Name, Right Side Big Yellow, A Certain Anonymous, and today's Earl has no cat for the donations. This is a donation for reading time. Mwah. Chapter 71 The Curtain Rises. Tonight, the Uchiha clan is sleepless. In the clan head's meeting room, Fugaku Uchiha leans cross-legged against the wall, his crimson Sharingan glaring at his indignant clansmen, his face etched with exhaustion. 3 Uchiha Jinan who participated in the Chunin exams were carried out of the Forest of Death and then abducted by Root. There's no news of them now, only that they're being held in solitary confinement in a hospital room. In reality, they're being held under house arrest by Root. What does Root mean? The room is in complete chaos. Everyone knows that Shimura Danzo has always harbored ill will towards the Uchiha. Now that he dares to openly detain his own clansmen, is his next move to strike at the Uchiha? Moreover, since recently, clansmen have been disappearing without a trace. The clansmen have long suspected that the village is behind these disappearances, and everyone knows that Root loves to use the lame excuse of inviting people for tea to physically eliminate certain individuals. After Orochimaru's forbidden human research was exposed, although he was forced to defect, it was clear to everyone who knew who was supporting him. Unfortunately, it was all speculation, lacking evidence. Coupled with Hirozen Sarutobi's intentional or unintentional favoritism, and the Fugaku clan head's gradual concessions for the greater good, many things were ultimately left unresolved. However, the resentment didn't dissipate, it accumulated in the Uchiha's hearts, growing deeper and deeper, like boiling water that would one day explode. Anxiety, fear, anger, suspicion, and resentment, long suppressed, intertwined in this pot of water. This current event was like pouring raging oil into that boiling water, fiercely scorching their internal organs, making their breath seem filled with a stench of hellish fire. This angry and violent fire was on the verge of erupting, seemingly wanting to burn away everything around them. Fugaku Uchiha remained silent. The room was unbearably hot, but he felt a chill seep into his very bones. He glanced at Itachi Uchiha, who leaned against the wall, expressionless, and felt a chill run through him. As clan leader, he was cowardly. As a father, he was incompetent. He could neither stop the clan's resentment nor understand Itachi's heart, only finding that familiar face growing increasingly alien. Itachi, what do you say we should do? Fugaku wanted an answer from Itachi. But there was only silence. Itachi's face suddenly turned ashen, as if he were dead, then it returned to normal in an instant, his blood-red eyes meeting the equally dark red eyes of others. Blood, all the same color as blood. Itachi lowered his head, avoiding their gaze, terrifyingly averting his eyes, his cold, lifeless nails digging into his palms without his awareness. The answer? Perhaps he already had it, but he couldn't tell them today. Meanwhile, upon receiving feedback that Kusagakure ninjas have entered the Uchiha compound, Danzo Shimura wasn't too surprised. He simply accelerated his subordinates' arrangements and deployments. If Hirozen Sarutobi couldn't persuade Itachi Uchiha, then Root would have no choice but to personally execute the traitors. Don't focus on Kusagakure for now. Shift all your efforts to the Uchiha. Even if a fly flies out of the Uchiha compound, I need to know where it's going immediately. Orders were relayed methodically, and Root, this ruthless killing machine, began operating at full speed. This time, they would completely eradicate the stinking, festering tumor of the Uchiha from Konoha. The next day, Itachi Uchiha emerged from the monitored streets and entered the Hokage building in the village. Shortly afterward, 3 Uchiha Jinan who had been confined to hospital ward were released and returned to the Uchiha compound to reunite with their waiting clansmen. They had no idea that this might be their last supper. It wasn't until late that night that Itachi Uchiha emerged, dragging his weary and stiff body, and slowly retraced his steps. At the street corner, a tall, slender figure perched on a narrow lamppost, leaning forward as if about to fall at any moment. His attire was exquisitely ornate, his tear-streaked face eerily bright, his deliberately dyed red hair standing wildly on his head like fire and blood, and his lips seemed to be lightly glossed. Standing atop the lamplight, he exuded a sexy yet dangerous aura. It was Hisoka, meticulously groomed and dressed. He seemed quite pleased, like a young girl preparing for a date, but Itachi knew otherwise. Hisoka wanted to witness the most brutal bloodbath in the world. Were you waiting for me? Itachi looked up at Hisoka, asking knowingly. Yes, I was afraid you wouldn't know where to find me when you wanted to invite me, So I waited here beforehand. Hisoka's eyes narrowed into slits, his smile radiant. You seem to have foreseen everything. Can you tell me, are you involved in how things have turned out this way? Itachi stared intently at Hisoka, as if trying to see right through him. I don't understand what you're talking about. Hisoka chuckled, covering his mouth. I'm someone who watches the show from the edge of the stage. I can't control the script. At most, I just fast-forwarded through certain parts of the plot. You won't blame me, will you? Itachi carefully considered the deeper meaning in Hisoka's words. You have to admit that sometimes a madman sees the world far more clearly than an ordinary person. Since the outcome was already predetermined, delving into the details of the process was meaningless. Itachi's rationality bordered on cold-blooded. I don't think you're the kind of person who's content to just stand on the sidelines and watch the show, Itachi Uchiha said pointedly. Just watching probably won't satisfy your interest. Hisoka nodded seriously. But you can't be the protagonist in every play of life. This play is destined to be yours, and I think watching is exciting enough. After I've seen your play end, it's not too late for me to take the stage. The timing of my entrance is an art in itself. Your play? Yes, I've put a lot of effort into that play. If you're interested, you can come and watch. No need. I'm different from you, Hisoka. I'm not interested in other people's stories. That's a real shame. Hisoka shrugged indifferently. Itachi Uchiha actually envied Hisoka's personality of acting recklessly according to his own whims, but unfortunately, that wasn't his destiny. He pulled a joker from his pocket, holding it between his fingers. Given Hisoka's personality, you really didn't need me to invite you, did you? It's different. Being invited and coming uninvited are completely different experiences when watching a performance. I'm a perfectionist. Hisoka tilted his head, grinning. A perfect performance needs not only a brilliant script and excellent actors, but also an audience that respects the rules and knows how to appreciate it. I am that audience. Uchiha Itachi smiled. This usually reserved and taciturn man had a slight smile playing on his lips. He had to admit, Hisoka was the most unique and interesting person he had ever met. The joker spun in the air. Hisoka caught the card, flipped his hand, and the card magically disappeared. He accepted Uchiha Itachi's invitation. You have to do something for me. Uchiha Itachi demanded without hesitation. No problem. Hisoka, true to his word, grinned. But for a mission that's too dangerous, I'll have to consider it if it's worth the price of your invitation to see this show. Oh? You didn't say that last time. Itachi Uchiha looked at Hisoka coldly. I'm afraid I'll be taken advantage of and then refuse to do what you asked me to do. That wouldn't be good. Hisoka changed his mind at the last minute, looking at Itachi Uchiha with interest. Itachi Uchiha thought for a moment. If you complete this task, I can take you to a very interesting place. I guarantee Yoroka will love it. Deal. Hisoka had no doubt about the sincerity of Itachi Uchiha's words, and he agreed with shining eyes. Itachi Uchiha felt relieved. As he brushed past Hisoka, a whispered sentence quietly reached his ears. Chapter 72 Memorable Scene, The Night of the Massacre. You have achieved the achievement, invitation. You have been invited by Itachi Uchiha to watch the Uchiha clan massacre, a classic performance you'll never tire of. Please, don't forget to collect it during the curtain call. Gain 2,000 achievement points. So, buying a ticket to see a play is rewarding. You have activated a quest. You have secretly made a deal with Itachi Uchiha and obtained a quest. Rewards will be settled based on the completion of the quest. Please, guess where that interesting place he's taking you to is. Itachi Uchiha's icy voice pierced your ears, and a few lines of text floated across your retina. Hisoka habitually blew a bubble, his smile becoming even more alluring and seductive. Day 2. Overcast. From morning onwards, the sun was gradually swallowed by dark clouds like a frost-bitten eggplant. The sky was gloomy, and the stuffy, damp air seemed to foreshadow an approaching storm. Even the chirping of crows in Konoha was subdued today. Fallen leaves swirled in the wind, then were silently crushed by the soles of shoes. One after another, masked figures emerged like ghosts from every dark corner, blocking the path leading from Konoha to the Uchiha. The path cut off at the root was a dead end, the boundary barrier silently inverted, like a bowl covering a graveyard, the square houses with lights on being the tombstones placed in this cemetery. They were still alive, yet they were long dead. If you can't finish, Root can do it for you. A hoarse, cold voice spoke, and beneath the bandages lay the sinister and ruthless old face of Shimura Danzo. I will personally send my clansmen away. Itachi Uchiha turned and stared intently at Danzo. The three tomo in his crimson Sharingan eyes formed a strange, windmill-like phantom, and an extremely evil and chilling aura seemed to burst forth from those eyes. I don't want to be disturbed by outsiders when I say goodbye to my clansmen. You'll die. A light, mocking voice translated Itachi's unspoken meaning. Hisoka stepped out of the shadows and stood beside Itachi. Danzo frowned, shifting his gaze from Itachi to Hisoka, as if asking, "Why are you here?" The question didn't need to be asked. Wherever there was excitement, Hisoka was sure to be there. It should start now, or we'll miss your brother's school dismissal time. Hisoka ignored Danzo and urged Itachi on. He was getting impatient. The Ninja Academy will be closing late today. Itachi Uchiha replied indifferently, then continued to look indifferently at Danzo Shimura, coldly reminding him, "I will bear all the sins of the Uchiha clan alone. Tell the Hokage to remember what you promised me." Danzo Shimura remained expressionless, only giving a cold snort. Itachi Uchiha didn't say anything more. He turned and walked into the path home. The root members around him saw Danzo Shimura's gesture, then quickly dispersed to seal off the entrance for Itachi Uchiha. The barrier above their heads was completely sealed, so tight that not even a fly could get out. Hisoka gracefully followed behind Itachi Uchiha, walking inside together, cheerfully explaining to the root members around him, "I'm different from you guys, I bought an admission ticket." The root members didn't understand Hisoka's dry humor. "Let him in, he's a special guest I invited," Itachi Uchiha said coldly. This madman's got involved with Itachi Uchiha again. Danzo Shimura had stopped trying to understand Hisoka's behavior. He felt inexplicably irritated, but still waved for Root to let him pass. Hisoka still had value, for now, he couldn't afford to turn against him. "Thank you." Hisoka politely thanked Danzo for his understanding, then turned and stepped into the barrier-covered graveyard. The path through the graves resembled a long, gray-white serpent, winding its way into view. A faint smell of blood filled his nostrils. Two fresh corpses, their throats slit, lay on either side of the path. They wore Uchiha Guard uniforms, crimson blood gushing from their throats, staining the fan emblem on their clothes. Their bloodshot eyes stared wide-eyed, seemingly unable to believe what had happened even in death. Life had already vanished. It was clear they had died quickly, not peacefully, but without pain. Quickly enough, is that merciful or ruthless? Hisoka licked his lips, quickly catching up with Itachi Uchiha. A tombstone was pushed open, someone went in and came out just as quickly, the sound of the corpse collapsing to the ground making this already completed cemetery seem truly fitting at this moment. Why? A clansman lay on the ground in a pool of blood, unwilling to accept his fate. Itachi Uchiha's eyes were contorted with rage. He silently walked around the corpse and continued forward. Clan members began to rush out one after another, staring at Itachi Uchiha with eyes of horror, bewilderment, and fear, all equally bloodshot. They looked like rows of corpses, heads craned, necks stretched, waiting to be slaughtered, at least that's how it appeared to Hisoka. His furious struggles and resistance were futile. A chaotic flurry of kunai and shuriken clashed in the air, Itachi's figure appearing and disappearing amidst the chaos. Screams, howls, and cries did not stop him. Instead, they drove him to madness, his sword swings sharper, his slaughter faster. Why? 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 Countless dying words, like a leech, burrowed into Itachi's mind. Even after he killed them, those voices echoed even more clearly in his head. The streets were empty, littered with corpses and blood. This was Itachi's one-man show. Hisoka did not interfere. As he had said, he was like a perfect spectator, watching, appreciating, recording, and feeling. No need for explanation. Only after everyone standing had fallen, and the world had returned to silence, did Hisoka gracefully step over the corpses, looking at Itachi bathed in blood, and ask, "Language is the most powerless thing. I've done what I've done, explaining or not explaining won't change anything." Itachi's 5 fingers gripping the katana were pale, but still steady without a tremor. "Of course, language can't change anything. I just think that adding an inner monologue here would elevate the scene, make it more beautiful," Hisoka suggested. "If you want, you can add whatever you want. I don't care." Itachi closed the eyes of the corpses, even though he knew that these Sharingan would eventually be gouged out. The 2 corpses were not on the street. There's a river of blood outside, but the people who should be here are not here. Are they completely deaf to the noise outside? Following Itachi's instructions, Hisoka added narration from this point, his tone like a poem recitation perfectly expressing Itachi's inner thoughts. Itachi took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled, and walked across the road to go home and push open the door. This is the usual meal time. Hisoka cruelly read the narration. Thank you Trat for the 1,500 points donation, and thank you to Yinglong and KKSQ for the donations. Chapter 73 The legendary figure becomes reality. The door opened, revealing a simple yet exquisite table laden with dishes. Mikado Uchiha, dressed in casual clothes, had silent tears streaming down her face. Fugaku Uchiha, dressed in his clan leader's robes, knelt behind the table, his gaze complex and unreadable as he looked at Itachi Uchiha, who was covered in blood. Following behind Itachi, the strikingly dressed and alluring Hisoka seemed almost invisible, completely ignored. Hisoka didn't follow inside, politely standing outside, leaving the stage for this family of three to perform their final act. Itachi, is this the answer you came up with? Fugaku Uchiha asked only this one question. Itachi Uchiha bit his lip, blood seeping from his dry lips. It seems I was wrong. My cowardice has placed a heavy burden of reality on your shoulders. As clan leader, I have failed. I can neither lead the clan in rebellion against Konoha, nor help Konoha suppress the Uchiha's resentment. Fugaku Uchiha had struggled with hesitation and indecision his entire life, yet ultimately could not escape it, and was forced to make a final choice in a crueler way. As a father, I also feel guilty and remorseful, Itachi. The path you've chosen can only be walked alone, in loneliness and cold darkness. Fugaku's eyes revealed the shape of a kaleidoscope, a bitter smile on his face. Everything these eyes see is darkness. The Sharingan is the curse that the Uchiha have carried for generations. It must end. Itachi Uchiha's eyes widened, two streams of bloody tears flowing from the corners of his eyes, the black in his pupils growing even deeper and darker. Red, like blood, black, like ink, this is the true essence of the Sharingan, eyes born from blood and death, beautiful yet evil. Fugaku Uchiha slowly closed his eyes. Itachi, you must protect Sasuke. Mikado Uchiha also gave a sorrowful yet gentle smile. She couldn't bear to look at Itachi, at the deathly silent courtyard after opening the door. She would never see him again, never see that little boy before her. Mikado Uchiha closed her eyes. Itachi Uchiha quietly watched this scene, blood-stained tears streaming down his cheeks, splashing onto the tatami mat. The instant his sword touched the ground, he silently severed the scene before him. A few breaths later, Itachi wiped away his tears. His face was devoid of any emotion, even his breath seemed to be chillingly cold. A tragic and bloody tragedy, yet embellished with profound love. The love of the Uchiha clan is truly twisted, deformed, and so heavy it's suffocating. Hisoka broke the somber atmosphere, offering his commentary. Uchiha Itachi remained silent. He walked out of the courtyard, quickly left, returned to the street entrance, jumped onto the top of a street lamp, and gazed indifferently, waiting. Hisoka sat on a rooftop not far away, one leg crossed, yawning, seemingly looking around boredly, but his gaze paused silently for a moment in a corner hidden in the darkness. The Mangekyo Sharingan's corpse can't be picked up by anyone else. Hisoka gently exhaled a bubble, which burst crisply in the night. In the quiet, dead man's courtyard, the scent of a fresh corpse always particularly attracted the attention of some people and plants. A crack suddenly appeared at the base of the mud wall, and a section of lush green pitcher plant stubbornly grew out, then popped open, revealing a half-black, half-white head, like a yin-yang face, indescribably strange. That's strange. Why did Konoha suddenly attack the Uchiha so hastily? This is much earlier than we originally expected. A voice that didn't sound like a good person muttered. Black Zetsu shook his neck, his small, darting eyes showing confusion and annoyance. It felt like his carefully crafted script had been interrupted and stolen. Although the outcome was good, something still felt off, a strange feeling he vaguely recognized. What are you spacing out for? The air swirled, and Toby, wearing a spiral mask, stepped out, his crimson, malevolent Sharingan coldly scanning the two corpses in the room. Nothing. Black Zetsu shook his head. He couldn't discuss the topic of a seasoned screenwriter's keen intuition with Toby. I'm just a little surprised that the Uchiha clan was wiped out so easily. Surprisingly, Hiruzen Seireitei didn't show any hesitation this time. I'm particularly curious about what made him make such a painful decision, and why he chose such a sensitive moment. Black Zetsu explained to Toby, in language he could understand. Oh, does that matter? Doesn't it save us a lot of trouble? Toby didn't care about such trivialities and asked back. You're right. Black Zetsu was speechless. He had to admit that even when some people turn evil, their intelligence shouldn't be expected to be too high. The two went into the house. Black Zetsu glanced around the room. 2 corpses lay in pools of blood, their expressions unusually calm. Steaming food sat on the table beside them. Killed without any resistance, what a touching love. Black Zetsu exclaimed in amazement. HMPH, Uchiha Fugaku is probably the most cowardly and weak clan leader in Uchiha history. I grieve for the Mangekyo Sharingan in his eyes. Abe let out a disdainful sneer. What he hated most were people who clearly had the ability to resist and struggle, yet chose to close their eyes and wait for death. Did they think anyone would be grateful? No, no one remembers the dead. The world they sacrificed for was already rotten to the core and didn't deserve to be saved. Foolish man, Abe reached out and pinched Uchiha Fugaku's face, 2 fingers aiming at the tightly closed eye sockets and ruthlessly digging them out. Suddenly, a cold white hand appeared out of thin air, pinching the 2 fingers that had committed the crime. Without warning, a ripple appeared in the air, first a hand, then an arm, a shoulder, and the entire figure instantly emerged from the transparent air. It was as if someone had always been standing there, but had somehow concealed their form, hiding in the air, until the moment Fei made contact, at which point their body emerged from the shadowy void. A loose black and white robe billowed without wind, short brown hair partially obscured their forehead, below which were old-fashioned black-rimmed glasses, and a gentle, refined smile. It's immoral to casually dig out someone else's eyes. Besides, this body has already been reserved. Your theft is causing me a lot of trouble, so could you please give up? The calm voice, though seemingly negotiating, contained an undeniable domineering authority. Who are you? Fei was stunned. Chapter 74 First Meeting, I am Aizen Sasuke. The moment his fingers were pinched, Fei felt a strange force spreading towards him upon contact, as if he had encountered an invisible attack. The air around his legs seemed to suddenly thicken, slowing his movement and preventing him from pulling his fingers away immediately. Shadow Step, enter stealth and pass through other units until an attack or skill is used. Breaking stealth slows the target's movement speed. Black Zetsu was also startled, his pupils shrinking as he stared at the strange man who had appeared so bizarrely. He couldn't understand when the man had appeared, or if the man had actually been in the house all along. Who am I? It's been so long, I can't even remember, that no one has asked me that question. It's a strange sense of familiarity I haven't felt in a long time. The man held Fei's fingers in one hand, and gently adjusted his glasses with the other, seemingly trying to remember his name. Nice to meet you, fellow human. I am Aizen Sasuke. Aizen wore a warm, welcoming smile. I'll ask you one more time, could you please not try to harm this corpse? Obi was amused and exasperated. It had been years since anyone had dared to make such a request of him. Aizen Sasuke, some nobody from some obscure corner of the world. He'd never even heard of him. Obi abruptly withdrew his hand, his fingers flattening, a kunai slipping from his sleeve, which he gripped tightly and lunged at the face before him. Black Zetsu, however, remained remarkably composed. For some reason, he felt a chilling aura emanating from Aizen that made him wary. The instant Obi withdrew his hand to attack, Black Zetsu saw no emotional fluctuation in Aizen's eyes, not even a smile on his face. This man was definitely not simple. Swoosh! The sound of a sharp blade piercing the air at high speed filled the air as a hole was suddenly pierced through the wall beside the house. The cold glint of the blade struck instantly, piercing Fei's head. The blade cut through the twisting vortex, instantly retracting and disappearing. Black Zetsu stared in horror at the hole in the wall, only vaguely seeing a tall, indistinct figure 100 meters away behind the wall, seemingly holding a short sword pointed in their direction. What a joke. Was that the short sword just now? Black Zetsu frowned, but the figure behind the hole vanished abruptly. Before he could react and search, short footsteps came from the courtyard behind him. Black Zetsu turned sharply and saw a similarly tall figure in a black and white robe emerge from the darkness. A refined yet hypocritical smile graced his face, his eyes narrowed to slits, and his entire being exuded a cold, venomous aura. A slender, short, narrow sword was tucked at his waist. Was it the person outside the wall? They got in so quickly. A solemn expression appeared on Black Zetsu's face. At the same time, From the swirling vortex of air beside him, Toby silently emerged. I almost died. Toby gently touched his mask. A crack appeared between his brows, and several fingernail-sized fragments fell off. Even with Kamui, he almost couldn't dodge in time. It was too dangerous. Toby felt lingering fear, realizing he needed to learn more about the meaning behind the name Aizen Sasuke. Oh, right, it wasn't him who stabbed me earlier, it was someone else. He looked at the squinty-eyed man who had entered. His gaze lingered on the short sword at the man's waist. The Sharingan's extraordinary dynamic vision allowed him to see the assailant's face the instant he was stabbed. It was this person. That sword could extend. And who is this person? Captain Aizen, this one-eyed masked man just tried to attack you. Should I kill him? Gin Ichimaru stared at the person before him, a figure with the exact same body and face as Aizen Sasuke, complete with those black-rimmed glasses. For a moment, he was momentarily disoriented, almost believing that the man had truly awakened and descended into this world. Heaven knows, when Gin Ichimaru raised his sword just now, for a split second he almost involuntarily aimed at it, Aizen Sasuke. Fortunately, his JK automatically corrected his movement, making him realize that it was just President Nami in disguise. Although the body and appearance were disguised almost perfectly, the spiritual pressure and soul frequency fluctuations that could be sensed by the Shinigami remained unchanged, confirming that it was still Kaguya Nami's aura. It's all Mayuri Kuratsuchi's fault for making those glasses on a whim. They're terrifying. Various thoughts raced through his mind. On the surface, Gin Ichimaru was flawlessly playing along with Chairman Nami, while simultaneously reinforcing his Aizen Sasuke persona in front of the two humans dressed in black robes with red clouds. Clearly, some people hadn't even truly been unsealed and descended yet, but this world would already have his legend and presence. This treatment was simply outrageous. Arrogant, Toby sneered, but in reality, his Sharingan hadn't moved an inch from the short sword at Gin Ichimaru's waist, inwardly filled with dread for this smiling, squinted-eyed fellow. No, I'm not that petty. There's no need to be so calculating with people from the mortal world. Aizen smiled, his tone amiable and without a trace of anger. Retrieve these two corpses as soon as possible, we have other things to do. Retrieve? Black Zetsu was a little concerned about the meaning behind this word. He stopped Obi's impulse. In the end, it was just a pair of kaleidoscopes. Although rare, they weren't essential to them. Compared to that, he was more concerned about the two mysterious people in front of him. Their extraordinary and strange strength, the strange words in their speech that were inexplicably puzzling and intriguing, and their matching uniforms. These were two members of the same organization carrying out some kind of activity. What does people from the mortal world mean? What does retrieve mean? The Uchiha clan was unexpectedly wiped out at this moment. Is it related to these two people? Who exactly are they? Black Zetsu's mind worked much faster than Obi's, but the faster his mind worked, the more chaotic his thoughts became, making it difficult to sort out any clues. What do you want to do with this corpse? Black Zetsu asked, emphasizing the word reclaim. It's classified information, I cannot disclose it. Aizen replied firmly. Sometimes, not telling is better than telling. Answers that come too easily are rarely convincing. Black Zetsu frowned. The other party's unwillingness to answer only fueled his curiosity and made him more eager to understand their background. If you won't say anything, we can't give you the corpse, Black Zetsu said. Give it? Interesting. This is the first time I've heard someone offer to give it to us, Captain Aizen. Gin Ichimaru unconsciously gripped his sword hilt, seemingly finding it inexplicably amusing. Don't bother with ignorant people of this world. Aizen reassured Gin Ichimaru, politely raising a finger to Black Zetsu. I can answer a not too outrageous question, in exchange for your continued interest in these two corpses. His seemingly polite words were laced with condescending superiority and unquestionable dominance. Fei's eyes twitched with anger. Black Zetsu's face was also grim. If he weren't completely clueless about the other party's situation, he wouldn't be speaking to them so politely. What the hell is going on? How can there be organizations and people in this world that I don't know about, who speak and act so arrogantly? Thank you to Rolling Super Justice for the 5,000-point reward. Thank you to Mortal Stranger for the 1,666-point reward. Thank you to Uncle Tai Yao Yao for the 500-point reward. Thank you to Sweet Nine-Tailed Devil Yu Jiang, Midnight Locust Tree Under My Dream, Rao Rhubarb on my right hand, flowers full of cherry butterflies dancing flying wishing you follow me, and the reward from 201701061534475532. Mwa. Chapter 75 Akatsuki, the 13th Gotei 13, An Encounter. Black Zetsu, a veteran screenwriter of the ninja world, was furious. In his incredibly long life, the last person who dared to speak to him with such arrogance had been tricked into obediently lying in his coffin, his grave overgrown with pitcher plants. Aizen Sasuke, what makes you think you can do that? Black Zetsu took a deep breath, suppressing his indignation. He decided not to provoke this person and instead try to find out their background. He wasn't worried about how to torture them later. His long life had taught Black Zetsu patience and caution. Only the most cunning and treacherous could survive to the end. Have you thought it through? We have other things to do and can't linger here too long. Aizen adjusted his glasses with his index finger. From Hisoka's perspective, he could already see a small figure with a backpack, one foot already stepping into the silent street corner. I want to know what organization you are? That's not too much to ask, is it? Black Zetsu asked after a moment's thought. I knew you'd ask that. Even a veteran screenwriter's thought process is simple. I can tell you. Aizen replied with a smile, but even if I did, you might not know. After all, human life is too short and we're prone to forgetting, and the Gotei 13 haven't been active in the mortal world for a long time. The Gotei 13. That name sounds familiar. Black Zetsu and Tobi's pupils contracted slightly simultaneously, their peripheral vision catching briefly. They immediately recalled a piece of intelligence from Kirigakure a while back. They remembered, the black and white uniform robes, the way he spoke, that was the name. So, this man with a short sword, the smirking face and narrow eyes, was the squad leader named Ichimaru Jin from the intelligence report. The intelligence report also mentioned another extremely wicked character, Aizen Sasuke. No, that doesn't match the description of that person's appearance in the intelligence report. This is the third squad leader to appear. Gin Ichimaru's strength had already been tested from a distance by Tobi, a corner of his mask had crumbled. As for Aizen Sasuke, although he hadn't made a move, the strange way he revealed himself at the beginning, and the respect Gin Ichimaru showed him, were enough to say a lot. The strength of these two was currently unfathomable. Of course, Black Zetsu didn't believe that these two squad leaders would be a match for him and Tobi in a real fight. He had that much confidence, but he wasn't reckless. Dealing with these two squad leaders would definitely be troublesome. If they weren't careful, they could make too much noise and attract the attention of Itachi Uchiha en route. Trying to steal a chicken and losing the rice would be a complete loss. Furthermore, if a third squad leader really appeared, then wouldn't the Gotei 13 actually have 13 squad leaders? In Black Zetsu's mind, the level of vigilance towards the Gotei 13 would rise sharply to a dangerous level. Black Zetsu's mind raced, considering numerous questions in an instant, but outwardly, he showed no emotional fluctuation, as if he truly had never heard of this name, just as Aizen had predicted. Tobi, on the other hand, showed surprise, but fortunately, the spiral pattern mask concealed it from the two. You think we don't know you? Actually, you've already been exposed once, and we didn't care then, but after this encounter, we won't ignore you again. And you probably don't even know who we are? Tobi's intelligence suddenly kicked in, a sinister smile spreading across his face. He exchanged a glance with Black Zetsu, then, true to his word, retreated towards the courtyard. One disappeared underground, the other vanished through a swirling vortex of air. A while later, after the Shinigami's senses and the surveillance of the reconnaissance guards confirmed that Black Zetsu and Tobi had indeed left, Gin Ichimaru spread out the sealing scroll on the ground. A white cabinet, resembling a freezer, was revealed, a coffin made by Mayuri Kuratsuchi at the chairman's request to preserve corpses. He opened the coffin, moved the two corpses inside, and resealed them back into the scroll. Should we switch two corpses from outside? Gin Ichimaru, having moved the bodies, looked at the now empty tatami mat and felt he should make some cleanup. There were ready-made corpses everywhere outside, and with the chairman's incredibly lifelike face sculpting skills, it wouldn't be difficult to distinguish the real from the fake for a while. The fake will be exposed sooner or later. No need to overdo it. Gin Ichimaru, you don't know Konoha enough. All the bad things and dirty deeds that happen on this land, without any trouble, some kind soul will take the blame for us. His voice was unusually confident. That's truly a very kind soul. How does the chairman plan to thank him? Gin Ichimaru looked at Kaguya Nami, who resembled Aizen, and felt that the chairman's aura of a mastermind had suddenly doubled. How? Aizen Sasuke removed his black-rimmed glasses, his hands gently stroking upwards along the edges of his face. His entire face instantly twisted and distorted horribly, like a candle, into another face. His skeletal structure also deformed and narrowed accordingly. The whole scene was exceptionally horrifying, yet possessed an indescribable beauty. Even the well-traveled Gin Ichimaru felt goosebumps rise on his back as he witnessed his transformation. He tossed the Shinigami robe and hurried to Gin, then changed into pre-prepared clothing and props. A new body and face were gradually sculpted in Jin's vision, then eerily vanished into thin air. I have to rush to the next performance, a voice came from the unseen air. I believe it will be a magnificent performance that will amaze everyone who witnesses it. Jin bowed slightly to the unseen air. You never know what kind of face the student council president will appear before you next. This was the only thought in Gin Ichimaru's mind at that moment. He even began to doubt whether the face exposed to him in Mayuri Kuratsuchi for the first time after the mask was removed was truly Kaguya Nami's original appearance. Blood. Blood was everywhere, every breath was blood, red blood everywhere, staining the streets, splattering on the walls, tree trunks and branches were crimson, and even the gray telephone poles were stained with blood. Everything was just blood, and the corpses lying dead in pools of blood. Each bloodshot eye, each face contorted and stiff, was a face that Uchiha Sasuke had once known and cherished, but now it all seemed so strange and terrifying. So this is what it means for a dead person to look so horrifying. Uchiha Sasuke stared at the street in horror, his feet feeling as if they were filled with molten lead, the blood like mud binding his legs, making it impossible for him to take another step. Fear. An overwhelming fear seeped into his soul, permeating every cell of his body. Only 3 words remained in his mind: they're all dead. There was no one there. The deathly silent streets were filled with corpses, and the open doors of the surrounding houses were also filled with bodies. Uchiha Sasuke could only hear his own breathing, the silence sending shivers down his spine. He desperately wanted to find another living sound, a sound that could be heard breathing. Then, he heard the sound of a playing card spinning on his fingertips. He turned his head and saw the face in the corner beside him, the face that had haunted him for the past few days. Did you kill him? The conclusion instinctively flashed through Uchiha Sasuke's mind, his eyes blazing with fury as he stared at Hisoka. Nice eye, but wrong target. I didn't kill him. Look up, the murderer is over there. Hisoka pointed upwards. Following his finger, there was a telephone pole, and a figure sat crouched at the top, silently looking down, a face he knew all too well. Sasuke instinctively took a step forward, then stopped. He saw that familiar face congealed with blackened blood, a face devoid of its usual warm smile, only a strange, chilling coldness more terrifying than the dead. Sasuke's back. I've been waiting for you. Hisoka was right, I killed them all by myself. A voice colder than a blade pierced Sasuke's eardrums with crystal clarity. He stiffly looked up at his brother's Sharingan, darker than blood, twisting and spinning into a sinister shape he had never seen before. He seemed to see a blood-stained crimson moon reflected in those eyes. Kaguya Nami, I am Aizen Sasuke. Aizen Sasuke, why do I hear someone calling my name in the mortal world? 11 squad leaders, still sealed and lying in a row, stood like 11 statues, silent and speechless. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all, see you in the next video.